Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting of Dubbo Regional Council. Thank you all for your attendance this evening. I advise that this meeting is being streamed live to the internet, and upon joining these online meetings you accept the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings. Please note that we're holding this meeting tonight in the DRTCC to accommodate the larger than normal crowd expected for this meeting. I thank the public gallery attendees for their respectful conduct at recent meetings and strongly encourage that respect to continue. Under section 15 of the Code of Meeting Practice, councillors, staff and members of the public must refrain from engaging in disorderly conduct, including clapping, cheering or booing at any stage during the meeting, or making defamatory statements, insults or threats against any individuals. If disorderly conduct occurs under section 15.17 of the Code of Meeting Practice, the chairperson of the meeting has the power to expel any individual or group of individuals for having engaged in disorderly conduct. Under section 15.18, the name or names of the people expelled are recorded in the minutes of the meeting. I trust that I won't need to enact these sections of the code. I formally open the June 2024 Ordinary Council meeting, the time being 5:31. Can I start with the prayer, please, Councillor Wright?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. O God, grant that by the knowledge of thy will, all we may resolve shall work together for good, and we pray through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Can I have Councillor Burns' acknowledgement of country, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the Mother, Mara, Nanjani, Naramang, Tabagawaradri, Wilaywaradri, Mangawaradri. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Next item on the agenda is conflicts of interest. Item CCL 24/138. I have three councillors that have declared a conflict. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just declaring a conflict on CCL 24/146. That item is in that particular report is CSC 24/28. Just refers to, I'll declare a pecuniary interest. Just refers to land at Keswick Estate and I own a block of land in that particular release, and I'll leave the room during that debate. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Black.
Thank you very much. I have two pecuniary conflicts of interest to declare. The first one being CCL 24/143 about a Camp Road subdivision. I live on Camp Road near the subject site owned by the Benders. To remove any perception of an undeclared pecuniary conflict of interest, I'll leave the meeting while this item is considered. And the second one is IPEC 24/38 out of CCL 24/144, also on the Camp Road subdivision. And the same reason, I live on Camp Road near the subject site owned by the Benders. To remove any perception of an undeclared pecuniary conflict of interest, I'll leave the meeting while this item is considered.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the business paper CCL 24/154, development of the commercial premises shopping centre in South Lake, I declare a non-pecuniary significant interest because I live in South Lake, and I'll leave the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Are there any further conflicts for any councillors to declare? No, thank you, councillors. Moving on. Next item is CCL 24/139, public forum. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 5 minutes to address council. Under section 4.14 of the Code of Meeting Practice, this time is to be strictly enforced by the chairperson. At 4 minutes and 30 seconds, I'll indicate by this bell that you've got 30 seconds left. At the 5 minutes, I'll inform you that your time is finished and your microphone will be turned off, and I'll ring the bell again. I'll remind the speakers and public gallery again of the items I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting in relation to acts of disorder. Each speaker shall be allowed to deliver their address without any noise from the audience at any stage during or after their presentation. Under section 4.2, speakers at public forums must comply with the Code of Meeting Practice and all other council codes, policies and procedures, and refrain from engaging in disorderly conduct, alleging breaches of the Code of Conduct or making other defamatory statements. Under section 4.17 of the Code of Meeting Practice, speakers at public forum cannot ask questions of the council or councillors or council staff. Under section 4.3, the time available for public forum is limited to 30 minutes. If there is time available after the registered speakers, I will inquire if there are any other speakers. If we reach the 30-minute limit, council may resolve to extend the time available for public forum. For each speaker that comes forward, please state your name and the item on the agenda you wish to speak to, if you are speaking about an item on the agenda. Your 5 minutes will start after that time. I have 6 speakers registered to speak tonight. And under section 4.13 of the Code of Meeting Practice, the order has been determined. I'll run through those speakers here now so you know that order. Mr Owen Johns, Mr Christopher Botfield, Mr Robert Fraser, Mr Martin Simmons, Mr Robert Shanks and Mr Philip Toynton. So if we can start with Mr Owen Johns, please. Come to the microphone. As mentioned, state your name, the item on the agenda, and then I'll start your 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors and staff. My name's Owen Johns. I'm here to discuss or to present regarding the notice of motion from Councillor Richard Ivey regarding a new bridge, Scabbing Flat Bridge. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight, and I'll try and keep it as quickly as possible. I realise this is a sideshow this evening compared to the main act, and I ask the forbearance of the rest of the audience here while I make a quick presentation. Council will recall that our spokesperson, Michelle Tompkins, made a compelling presentation last council meeting. And she was speaking to the Mayor a few days ago, and he recommended we make another presentation tonight because it is on the council agenda, and so that's what we're doing. Michelle is unfortunately unavailable, so I'm deputised to make the presentation. Okay, let's look at the current situation quickly. On the Arthurville Road, 4 kilometres south of Geary, there's a wonderful old bridge, Scabbing Flat Bridge. It's called Scabbing Flat Bridge. Built some 114 years ago, in 1910, it would certainly have been seen as a visionary project at the time to provide for all the foreseeable user requirements and was basically flood-proof. And yes, I'd love to know how it deserves such a flattering name. Fast forward to 2024, we still see a beautiful bridge that is now 114 years old. It is a local heritage listed asset, however, within 12 months we expect it to be state listed. And being state listed, it should be preserved into the future. However, it is a narrow one-lane bridge, too narrow for a lot of modern farm machinery and earth-moving equipment. It's not capable of carrying V-double and high mass limit loadings. It is the only bridge in that 50-kilometre stretch between Dubbo and Wellington that crosses the Macquarie River. And now it has been load restricted to 16-tonne limit since November last year. Based on the latest advice from Transport New South Wales, who are responsible for the maintenance of the bridge, it won't be open for harvest, and we expect probably early next year before it will be open to its normal weight limit of 42.5 tonnes. It's definitely time to update the vision for what is required for a new Scabbing Flat Bridge. Until the load limit is removed, there are issues for safety, logistics and additional costs as heavy transport vehicles have to use alternate routes. The latest extended load limit has galvanised many affected bridge users to call for a new bridge. Some 180 signatures on a petition letter were gathered within 2 weeks and attached to our submission to Council to the draft 2024-25 budget. As far as replacing the bridge, all the timber bridges except for one now have funding in the council area to be replaced. That sole bridge left to be funded is Scabbing Flat. Rawsonville Bridge, which is also the responsibility of Transport New South Wales, is currently being replaced. It is a vital piece of infrastructure to our area and it needs to be replaced. As far as the suggested solution, it is a lot of money. It's $25 to $30 million at least to replace the Scabbing Flat Bridge. And of course, we require state and federal government grants to make it happen. We are committed to working hand in hand with Council to ensure the desired result can be achieved, but it needs to start here, and that is why it's crucial that Council support the vision for a new Scabbing Flat Bridge. What are we asking from councillors? In our submission to the 24-25 budget, we requested a budget amount of $50,000 and the same amount for the following 3 years to enable preliminary works to commence. Having lobbied councillors regarding our submission, Councillor Ivey suggested that we should be first looking to prepare a business case for a new Scabbing Flat Bridge, and Councillor Ivey's notice of motion is on page 79 of your business papers. and recommends that staff prepare an initial assessment for the feasibility of a new bridge. We'd like to thank Councillor Ivey for his support for an assessment of the project, and we would appreciate Councillor's support for his recommendation. Furthermore, we urge that a time frame be put on preparing the assessment and that it be completed as soon as possible. Given that a good case can be made for the project to proceed, we can commence lobbying to get this project shovel-ready as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Johns. Well done. No clapping, as I mentioned before. Thank you. And 10 seconds up your sleeve, Mr Johns. Well done. Thank you for that. The next speaker we have registered is Mr Christopher Botfield. Mr Botfield, if you could come to the microphone. We don't need to go through the rules. You're already aware of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to speak. I'm Christopher Botfield. I'm the Principal of Access Environmental Planning. I'm here to speak on CCL. Excuse me, I've had a bad cold. CCL 24-143 regarding the development on Camp Road. I'm an accredited biodiversity assessor, along with my colleagues who assess this project. We're bound by legislation to be impartial and provide all our information on these projects based on facts. As well, we have referred this project out to a peer group to also review the information that we've provided. So I'll move straight to the facts. Fact one, a single squirrel glider was identified and sighted on the site in 2018. The life expectancy of a squirrel glider is 5 to 6 years. It would be improbable at this stage that single squirrel glider would still be alive. It is also assumed by Council that there were multiple squirrel gliders at the time of that observation. That is an assumption by Council. Fact two, a fauna specialist installed cameras on this site, song meters, and undertook evening surveys over an extended period to see if there were squirrel gliders present on the site. The answer to that is no squirrel gliders were identified either physically or within the song meters or on the cameras. So the fact is, at the moment, there are no squirrel gliders on this site. Fact three, why were there no squirrel gliders on this site? And this is a critical component of this issue. The reason there are no squirrel gliders on this site is because the habitat is so severely degraded. The habitat itself is devoid of understory that would support a squirrel glider in terms of a food and natural resource. Even if the squirrel glider lived there or was there for a very short time, the reason it's not there now is because there's no sustenance for it to stay there. The environment is so degraded in relation to that habitat. The understory plants that are required are banksias and several other very specialist species, and the understory in this area is virtually missing, other than some invasive wattles that are in that location. Now to the future. The issue in relation to the biodiversity credits relates to the provision of payment for the damage to an environment which will prevent or sustain an environment or a habitat for the squirrel glider into the future. I have to say, if you can put yourself in the position of being a warm, cuddly, very shy nocturnal animal, would you live in a peri-urban area with little food, little shelter, and next to a racetrack? It is highly improbable that there will be a colony of squirrel gliders established in this habitat or in this area of this subdivision into the future, which negates the reason to pay for biodiversity offset credits to conserve a habitat that is non-existent. So, fact four, the Biodiversity Act was created to take away and remove subjective reporting and assessment. So historically, it was a problem with environmental assessment because people wrote reports to target the outcome required, and assessments were undertaken in relation to the bias of the people reading them. The Biodiversity Conservation Act removed that because they created a process for environmental assessors or accredited environmental assessors, biodiversity assessors. We are strictly controlled under legislation in relation to the prescriptive nature of our surveys and the information that we have to provide. We cannot be partial, we must be impartial, and we must provide factual information in our reports. Today's decision is to ascertain whether a developer pays $59,000 to replace or conserve a habitat that is essentially not there. The legislation provides for council to make a decision. It's not a decision for a city-based bureaucrat, it's not a decision for a council executive, and it's not a decision for me as an accredited assessor. The safety net is for council to consider whether these payments are fair and reasonable in relation to the location of Dubbo. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr Brockfield. Right on 5 minutes. Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker I have registered, as I mentioned before in the previous order, is Mr Robert Fraser. Mr Fraser, if you'd like to come to the microphone, please. And I can't see it, Mr Fraser. Thank you. Mr Fraser, if you come to the microphone. And I think you've understood the drill. We've got a couple of examples of that, so the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks very much for your time. My name's Anthony Scott. I'm talking on behalf of Rob. Thank you for your time. I'm here to talk about the sale yards, which is obviously a topical one for tonight. What we saw with the RFI of the sale yards was talking about the sale, the leasing of the sale yards. I believe that there's a better opportunity here, or an alternative that the RFI didn't consider, and that was moving the sale yards to an online platform. As we've seen through other council areas where they've shut down or released sale yards, those fees have gone up by over 150%, and those costs are borne by producers. So the concern, the sale yards are not profitable at the moment. If they're leased, the fear is that they become profitable, the costs to the producer will go up, as we've seen in other areas. There is currently an online platform that mimics the sale yard. It can be white labelled to Dubbo City Council, Regional Council, and be still owned and controlled under the Dubbo Council. Based on last year's turnover of sales, that revenue would be over $2 million back to Dubbo Regional Council on an annual basis. In relation to the sale yard process, it mimics everything that currently happens on a sale yard, but online. So there's a number of huge benefits here. You've got, and the cost of that sale will be cheaper to the producer, so it'll be cheaper for the producer. There will be also one less transport for the animals, which will also put more money into the producer's pockets. It's a lot better for animal welfare. There'll be less deaths and injury through transportation. It also has an improvement to biosecurity, and I hate to use the term, the major ESG benefits back to the council, because we would be reducing transport movement of animals, which has a noted improvement to carbon emissions. So when we're looking at the welfare for the local producers, to keep it in the council's hand and run an online platform. And the platform exists, it's operational. So what I'm actually asking the council is to defer a decision on tonight for a month, where we can come back and have a public consultation within a month, showing the capability. We can get the producers to test trial it and use it and give the feedback. But it's transparent to the producers. It doesn't take out the agents, it doesn't take anyone else out the supply chain. Everything stays the same. So no one loses in this. And this will then free up that land for the council to consider using it for other things. So it's good for the producers, it puts money back in their pockets. As we've all seen around, supermarkets squeezing our producers and taking money out of their pockets, this puts money back into your constituents' pockets on an annual basis. It improves animal welfare, it improves the environment. It stays under the governance of the council, and it produces a revenue stream for a council rather than a loss. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item the next speaker that's registered is Mr Marty Simmons. Mr Simmons, if you'll come forward and you know the story. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors. My name's Martin Simmons and I'll be addressing item 24149. Tonight, you gather for what we believe to be the most significant decision you have ever to make whilst on council. A decision that will potentially reshape not only the Dubbo regional livestock markets, but also the city of Dubbo and surrounding areas. This process has attracted media attention across 3 states. We can only hope that you have been supplied with the correct information on the 3 options at hand. Whether it be a sale or lease of the Dubbo regional livestock markets to a private company, both outcomes would have a major impact on our city. A 20-year lease to a private investor would be as detrimental as a sale. Like other selling centres that operate under that structure, fees will increase dramatically, producers will look for alternative selling methods, which in turn will reduce the number of livestock sold through the DRLM and lead to a downturn in Dubbo's economy. If the yards were leased for $1 million and the current depreciation rate's 1.75, the sale yards would still show a loss every year of $750,000, with no more opportunity to earn more income for the council. In an interview conducted by 2DU with the Mayor, he stated one of the interested parties would not increase the fees at the DRLM for 3 years. This concerns the Dubbo Stock and Station agents as we were part of that EOI process. I'm sure there would be a section in the Code of Conduct which relates to confidentiality, would there not? Another real issue for the DWSA is the council's perception around another agent entering the Dubbo regional livestock markets. The business paper states Dubbo Regional Council as the owner and in part effect operator of the DRLM, a public livestock market, has no ability to allow another party to sell as a sales agent on sale days. This is 100% incorrect. The DWSA has no authority or say in an agent that wants to sell at the DRLM on any given sale day who is not a member of the DWSA. The process is simple. Pay the council a fee of $12,800 and they are automatically in the sale draw for the following week's sale, which of course is a council-run draw. Refer to pages 36 and 7 of the deed of licence between agent and Dubbo Regional Council, which you all received last night. It has come to light through this process that the council and councillors don't really have a strong understanding of how the DWSA operates. This is not a criticism, just an observation. The Mayor stated in one of the podcasts that he looked up a producer's cattle account sale and the cost of selling each beast was $65, and out of that the council received yard dues and the DWSA got the rest. Again, false information. In fact, the DWSA received $2.75 scale fee out of the $65 and nothing else. I'm very confident the government receives their levy, the transport operators receive their charge, the scanning contractor receives the scanning fee and the agents receive their commission. For everyone's information, the DWSA is a non-for-profit organisation who acts as a bulk billing service on behalf of its members. The comparisons between Wagga and Forbes about getting the operation model correct under a modified status quo is also misleading. The business papers refer to the entire scale house being operated by council staff. We believe that would include one person operating the scales and another confirming the right lot of cattle is on the scales. So entire scale house is referring to 2 people. Dubbo has a council representative operate the scales and a DWSA admin employee confirm the correct stock are on the scales. So this process does not require a lot of change under a modified status quo. It also states the DWSA issue the emergency tags, once again incorrect. The tags are issued by the scanning company. I would like to think that we don't have to adopt either model, but the Dubbo Regional Council and the Dubbo Stock and Station agents work closely together and come up with a new and improved operational structure that Wagga and Forbes may want to implement themselves in the future. The fees and charges are also misleading, with Wagga operating under a tiered structure. The business paper states their cattle yard dues are $15.99 a head. This is correct if cattle were averaging $2,000. In fact, I would say the current yard dues at Wagga would sit around $9.80 a head on current market value. I note Forbes cattle yard dues are $17 a head. I guess that figure can be justified considering last year's numbers. They only sold 41,000 cattle, or 27.5% of Dubbo's total of over 151,000. We understand the council's need to increase the yard dues and agents' fees, licence fees by 32% for cattle and 27% for sheep to ensure the future capital works program is achievable. And the DWSA look forward to working with council to make this happen, to build a stronger relationship between the Dubbo Regional Council and the Dubbo Stock and Station agents and continue to grow both businesses and keep Dubbo as the #1 mixed species selling centre in the industry. In closing, the DWSA believe only one change needed to be made at the Dubbo Regional Livestock Markets, and that was council management at the facility. This has now taken place, and under a modified status quo, we look forward to the positive outcomes in the future and continuing to rebuild a strong working relationship with the management team at the Dubbo Regional Livestock Markets. Thank you.
So now I assume the audience wants to be here to listen to the debate from councillors. I did say at the very beginning of the meeting that under section 15 of the code, disorderly conduct would include clapping, booing or engaging in any other disorderly conduct. That's one warning of one. If we clap again, the audience will be expelled from the meeting and we'll continue on the debate without any audience here. That's your choice. You can choose to stay in the meeting for the debate. I made it very clear at the beginning of the meeting. So that will be your choice to decide whether you want to stay here by refraining from any further clapping, booing, cheering, anything that I would determine to be disorderly conduct. So hopefully that's clear to everyone. We've still got a couple of speakers to go and we've got a debate to go. If that occurs again, I'll adjourn the meeting, the room will be evacuated and the debate will continue on. You can go home and watch it on your computer. Hopefully that's clear to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Simmons, for your presentation. The next item, or the next presenter, sorry, Mr. Robert Shanks.
My name's Robert Shanks. I represent the sheep producers on the Sale Yards Advisory Committee, but I speak tonight as a concerned producer. Thank you for the opportunity to address the councillors and explain the value and contribution the sale yards have made to the ratepayers and businesses of Dubbo over the last 30 years that I'm aware of. I understand, as councillors, you have attended council workshops over the past few weeks which covered the sale yards operations. I don't intend tonight to advise you on how to vote. I hope to give you some information that will help you vote wisely. Council has the capacity to depreciate assets at their replacement cost. That's under the Local Government Code of Accounting and Financial Reporting, which is vastly different to small business tax in depreciation schedules which we all operate in. In other words, council can revalue an asset and start to depreciate it without ever having to pay for it. As stated in council's income statements, depreciation and losses on sale of assets are non-cash items, but are deducted from sale yards income as a cash cost. And then these non-cash expenses are reversed into the council's management account as capital income and therefore are a direct cash benefit to ratepayers, but still a cost to the sale yards account. Over the last 6 years of the financial statements that are in the meeting agenda for tonight, these non-cash items total $10.038 million. And using the same financial statements, the accumulated deficit over those 6 years is only $3.02 million, which is leaving $7.01 million being reversed into the management account. It is a direct cash benefit to ratepayers over those 6 years only. And over the 30 years of my involvement with the Sale Yards Advisory Committee, this practice of counting, I believe, has contributed in excess of $20 million to the management account. At my first advisory committee meeting 30 years ago, we were told by the then General Manager of Council that they, the Council, would be taking a dividend of $60,000 as they were entitled to a dividend, entitled to a return on their investment, which at that time I maintained was nil. They got the sale yards for nothing. Over the last 30 years, that dividend has grown annually in increments to an amount in excess of $431,000 in the 2023 year, which is approximately 12% of the total income of the Dubbo sale yards. I've got some figures here that I don't think I'm allowed to use. So I will say I believe that these annual dividends over those 30 years have contributed a large seven-figure sum to the management account. But you as councillors have the access and the right to ask why these dividend figures are not being made public. as it concerns ratepayers' money. Once again, I believe that the sale yards have contributed well in excess of $25 million, including those dividends, to the management account over the 30 years of my involvement, and therefore have not been of any cost to ratepayers, as is often quoted in the local media. Now, I've told you all that to tell you this. As councillors, please, when you vote on your choice of the three options tonight, you do so with the knowledge that the Dubbo sale yards have contributed greatly to your town's prosperity and provide a stable income for in excess of 300 people and their families' security, and should continue to do so in the modified status quo for years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Shanks. So the last item, also the last speaker, registered speaker, is Mr Philip Toynton. Come forward, please, Mr Toynton.
Good evening, Council. My name is Philip Toynton. I speak on the issue of the Dubbo Regional Livestock Sale Yards. If any statement that I make comes across as a question, it is to be seen as rhetorical only. This is my first time speaking at a council forum. That being said, the council has cited the most efficient and effective business structure to deliver the value for all ratepayers and provide services to industry as its determining factor for the proposal to disassociate itself from owning and operating the Dubbo Regional Livestock Markets. Can Council please outline how the proposed decision to disassociate itself from the operation of the Dubbo sale yards falls into this category? Given that Council has spent $300,000 on a 3D printed toilet, can Council justify this expense when this purchase yields zero return to the ratepayers? Councils do provide public spaces and amenities such as public toilets, sports grounds and playgrounds. These things all require maintenance and repair while never having the potential to raise any revenue for the council that owns them. Dubbo Council should learn a lesson from this, that no matter the cost of operating or maintaining certain assets, they are there for the use of the public. The Dubbo Regional Livestock Markets are the #1 seller of cattle in the state of New South Wales and the #3 seller of sheep and lambs in the state. According to information from the MLA, 153,000 cattle were sold through the Dubbo Regional Livestock Markets in the past 12 months. At $10.80 per head in fees is over $1.6 million in revenue from cattle alone. 1 million sheep were sold in the same 12 months at $1.10 per head in fees. This is $1.1 million in sheep and lamb revenue in the same 12 months, a total of $2.7 million. Given that the sale yards conduct sales every Monday, Thursday and Friday, where is the value to ratepayers in council disassociating itself from owning or operating such a viable and consistent service? Would council sell the tip for the same reasons? Of course not, because it's critical infrastructure, although it has fees associated with its use and would not be a profitable asset to the council, as the operational expenses that would outweigh the revenue raised at the gate. The location of the sale yards also plays a crucial role in both its success and the success of those who use the facility. I urge council to abandon the proposal to disassociate itself from involvement in the operation of the Dubbo Regional Livestock Markets and to instead work with all stakeholders such as the Dubbo Stock and Station Association for the benefit of all who use the facility. Thank you for hearing me this evening.
Thank you, Mr Toynton. That's all our registered speakers. We do have 5 minutes left in our official public forum time. That's 25 minutes taken up so far. So if there's anyone else that would like to come forward and speak, you can come and do that. Again, same as the other speakers, state your name, the item on the agenda that you'd like to speak about, and then you'll have your 5 minutes. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward? It can be about another topic besides the sale yards. It can be about any topic on the agenda or any council-related topic if you wish. Okay, thank you. I'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Next item, CCL 24/140, confirmation of minutes. Have someone move that way, please. Someone, Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Wright. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Chowdhury?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/141, mayoral appointments and meetings. Can I have someone move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Ivey, seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Ivey, do you wish to speak to that?
Yes, Mr Mayor, just a question. I noticed in your mayoral appointments you list on a number of occasions, I think about every fortnight, doing a radio interview with radio station 2BS, which I think is the Bathurst radio station, and also 2WEB. which is the radio station based in Bourke, which obviously are outside our Dubbo Regional Council area. I just wondered, could you explain or just provide some information of what issues are discussed there, and do you think that that is of value to our Dubbo Regional area?
It's interesting, Councillor Ivey. Obviously, there are many radio stations that I deal with, and I think one of the important things is the idea that a mayor is there to communicate with the community and keep the community informed. In both those scenarios, both 2BS contacted me and 2WB contacted me to say, can you do an interview? A fortnightly basis was suggested by both of those, and the topics that are usually discussed are usually topics that are of a broader regional nature. Sometimes they are Dubbo specific, but a broader regional nature. It really is whatever topics the interviewer asks me about in general, and they can vary from things that might be related. For example, 2WB might talk about things that might be regional based. 2BS might be more comparing things that are Bathurst focused, but Dubbo being a similar sized city, they might be focused on that. But it really is one of those things that from time to time, there are Sydney stations, Sydney newspapers, other regional locations that sometimes contact me to say, can I give an opinion or give some comments around that? So I suppose part of my role is under Section 226 of the Act is really to communicate with the public and be a spokesperson for council. For what it costs for those interviews, which is obviously zero, then I think it's probably pretty good value for money for the community on the wider sense to understand what's going on. Hopefully that covers that question, Councillor Ivey.
Thank you. Yep.
Any further questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Actually, coincidentally, I had one as well, just with regards to a meeting that you had on, actually it was a phone meeting on the Friday the 24th of May with Stephen Rosewell from Studio Kite. I just found that one interesting because if I sort of flick back to the previous council meeting, there was a question on notice from Councillor Black, actually, with respect to that particular meeting that council held with Stephen Rosewell. Just wondering if any chance you might be able to expand on that conversation that you might have had with him. It might have added a little bit to the question on notice from the previous month's meeting.
Yeah, thank you. So that was the day after, 24th of May, that was, wasn't it? I just think I found it here. Oh, yeah, there we go. Last one. So, Stephen Rosewell. So, correct. There was a question I noticed in relation to that. You will remember that we had a meeting, you were involved in that video conference meeting initially with some of those meetings with a number of different 3D proponents who wished to talk to us about their services. Studio Kite was one of those that contacted us. We had a discussion from memory. The CEO was in the room. We had one of our building staff in the room. You were in the room. We had that discussion. And that was about 2 years ago. So memories fade somewhat. And then there was a question I noticed. We had a discussion about that. But I actually rang Mr. Rosewell the next day after that last council meeting just to have a further discussion about that. You may remember in that meeting a couple of years ago, their technology hadn't been developed that far. There were different proponents that had different levels of sophistication in their 3D printing, and that particular one was one of those early, not quite sophisticated versions. And so I had the conversation with Mr. Rosewell, asked where his technology was up to. He certainly was keen to talk about that technology and subsequently sent an email through to myself about their technology, which I did forward to councillors, just to point out, I suppose, where their technology had gotten to, and they were certainly very keen to look at how they could be a part of solving the housing crisis across the state. They're talking to other LGAs, they're talking to the state government about how they might be part of that solution. So I think constructive discussion, and when we get to the point where some of our building lots we've got reserved for 3D, I'm sure Mr. Rose will be keen to do something there. Probably the main difference with his technology over and above some of the other technologies that we saw was that they would do their 3D printing and their factory and then ship it. So more or less like you see some organisations might do tilt panels, they might do something similar, whereas other 3D printing we've seen, like the 3D printed toilets, they constructed a gantry there and did the 3D printing on site. So a slightly different model, but it's fair to say there are a lot of people out there, a lot of organisations trying to solve the housing crisis we've got. Hopefully that answers your question, Councillor Wright.
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Any further questions or discussions, Councillor Black?
Just about the Studio Kite meeting you attended by phone meeting, did Mr. Rosewell say that he doesn't 3D print in concrete but in a plastic compound?
He said he was exploring a range of different products as such, and so there were different ecological products that they were using. I'm not sure that he called it a plastic, but it was different products that were based around some different types of more sustainable products, I suppose is the way I describe it. So he did talk about concrete, he talked about where he thought concrete was going, but he also thought it was based up around the Byron area, somewhere up there, and so he had a focus on the sustainability of production in addition to the ease of production. So I don't remember the plastic in particular, but certainly he talked about different types of sustainable products that he was using. Anything further on that, Councillor Black? No. Okay. Any other questions or comments, councillors? No. Okay, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/142, Organisational Sustainability Review and Improvement Plan, results of public exhibition. Have someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Mann. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Black? Any discussion or debate, councillors? Okay, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/143, update report for a modified development application. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Goff. Councillor Black.
Thank you. I'll declare a pecuniary interest in this matter as I live on Camp Road near the subject site owned by the Benders. To remove any perception of an undeclared pecuniary conflict of interest, I'll leave the meeting while this item is considered.
Okay, I'll assume Councillor Black is now out of earshot. Councillor Wright, you've moved that. Do you wish to speak to that?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I find myself pretty torn on this one, actually. I look at it, the case itself, the whole subject itself from a common sense perspective. And
sorry, just to interrupt briefly, Councillor Wright. This is just for the notation for the advice.
Do you want to debate on the item in the next matter, Mr Mayor?
Entirely up to councillors, but personally I would think that the decision is being made in the next item, so I'd probably suggest that would be a good way to go. But you can still speak, but again, that's where the decision will be made about the final outcome.
Sure, happy to take your advice on that. I'm happy to move that and just note that report, and happy to discuss that in the next item. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Can we have Councillor Black brought back in, please? The next item is item CCL 24/144, report of the Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee meeting. Can you move that, Councillor Wright?
I can, Mr Mayor, but can I move and save and accept? I'd just like to move that item, but I will save and accept item IPEC 24/38 of that particular report, which will be dealt with separately. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Have someone second that, please. Seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to the rest of that report?
No, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other discussion or debate, councillors, in relation to the rest of that report, excluding IPEC 24/38? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just now moving item IPEC 24/38 of that previous item, please.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Black.
Thank you. I'll declare a pecuniary interest in this item as I live on Camp Road near the subject site owned by the Benders. To remove any perception of an undeclared pecuniary conflict of interest, I'll leave the meeting while this item is considered.
Thank you, Councillor Black. I'll just wait till you go out of earshot. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Do you wish to speak to that?
I will, thanks. As I started a minute ago, I'm a bit torn on this particular item. Obviously, I look at it from a common sense perspective, as we heard a few moments ago, that the report indicating that the particular sugar glider was picked up about 6 or 7 years ago, 8 years ago now, and there's seemingly no evidence of it still there, but there's no evidence that it's not still there either. I then look at the very complex advice that the staff have received and also then passed on to us as councillors as well. And look, legislation is obviously there for a reason. Whether there's one sugar glider 5 years ago or 10 sugar gliders 15 years ago, it really is a complex item. Look, I'm probably sitting on the fence a little bit. I'm really keen to hear a bit of debate from my fellow councillors as well before I make a final decision on it. But I guess look, I'll sit on that because I'll ask a question in a few moments. So I'll come back. Thanks.
Right, thank you, Councillor Wright. Other discussions or debate? I'm not sure, Councillor Goff. It's hard, actually. I do apologise, councillors. Normally I've got all councillors in line of sight, but this way I feel like I've got to be back and forth. I think Councillor Goff got in just before you, Councillor Ivey.
I have an alternative motion. May I present that now?
No, we've got a motion in front of us now, so you would have needed to move the alternative motion first. If you've got an amendment that doesn't contradict the motion, then you can move that. But if the amendment's going to contradict it, then what you need to do is encourage your fellow councillors to defeat this motion, and then you would have an alternative. So you can foreshadow a motion there if this one is defeated, if you wish to do that.
Yes. I would like to foreshadow an alternative motion that the development application be approved, and with such that condition 5 be deleted, and 2, that council grant delegation to the Chief Executive Officer to sign the determination. After reading this report a lot, once upon a time before I was a councillor, I did a Bachelor of Science and I was majoring in zoology. So I found this really, really intriguing. I don't see why we have a development there, and if there was any skerrick of evidence that something endangered or that we're protecting is there, we shouldn't even allow any sort of development, but that's not the case here. What we're saying is you pay X amount of money and you can still develop. So common sense prevails in our housing crisis, to let this development go through.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. So just to reiterate there for fellow councillors, you're obviously speaking against that. Encourage fellow councillors to vote against the motion from Councillor Wright, and then you've got an amendment, a motion that you'd put forward. Please. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Goff. Back to you, Councillor Ivey.
Mr Mayor, perhaps a question arising from Councillor Goff's foreshadowed motion. If indeed we vote and defeat beg your pardon, if we vote in favour of the motion that says the application to remove the credits is removed, in other words, if we vote to defeat that, a question, what is the next step? Does the applicant have a chance or an opportunity to come back with an alternative motion that perhaps better meets the requirements of the department? In other words, if we accept the motion, defeat the application to remove the section requiring the credits, does the applicant have an opportunity to put up an alternative motion?
So just briefly there, if this motion is approved by council, that would mean the application would be refused. That would then mean that with those credits in there, not paying those credits, the developer basically wouldn't be able to go ahead, continue on, but there would still be the opportunity to go back and pay those credits and then continue on. And I'm happy to go to Mr Wallace to give some more clarification on that, but I assume that's what you're asking. You're asking something different.
No, my question is, following on from that, does the applicant then have an opportunity to bring a second motion or a second issue to council that may well satisfy their requirements?
So you're not so much a motion, you're more meaning a modified development, another modified development application is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yep, right. So yes, but I'll go to Mr Wallace, through you, Mr CEO, to Mr Wallace to get further clarification on exactly the process there. Thank you, Mr Wallace.
Yeah, through you, Mr Chair. The applicant has the option of challenging the decision, so that's the first step. They also have the option of pursuing a different path, whether that's lodging a different application, different modified application, after understanding some of the, and maybe obtaining their own legal advice about some of the intricacies of what the legislation allows and doesn't allow, or potentially even weaving that into another application. So the proponent actually has another modified application in with council at the moment. So they have a couple of avenues to do that. I'm sure that wouldn't be their first choice, but they certainly do have the capacity to challenge the decision, and that would be ultimately it could be challenged by coming back to council. They could also choose to take the matter to court, to the Land Environment Court.
Thank you, Mr Wallace. Further, Councillor Ivey?
Just one follow-up question, though. So in summary, the applicant may well have the opportunity to achieve its aims that's in this motion that we're debating now, if that motion is passed and therefore they can't remove their credits, they have the opportunity through another means of achieving that same aim?
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Through you, Mr CEO, to Mr Wallace.
And through you, Mr Chair. Technically, the answer is yes. It is not as simple as you might be making it, or I'm interpreting what you're saying. So it's not like the proponent has an easy capacity, a straightforward capacity. I mean, effectively, what council would do if they were to uphold the consent and refuse the recommendation. Sorry, uphold the recommendation and refuse the modified application. Effectively, that is refusal of that application. So unless they choose to take that matter further by challenging the decision, then the other alternatives are separate applications, if they choose to continue on.
And Mr Wallace, by challenging, you would mean the Land Environment Court challenging. There's no avenue to challenge back to your council. It would be that if you wanted to challenge that decision, that would be a land environment process.
Through you, Mr Chair, there is actually a clause in the legislation, a section of the legislation that enables a request for a review of a decision, and that is an avenue they could take as well.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. You can enter the debate as well. You've only asked questions so far, so you can enter the debate as well.
I'll leave it at this stage. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Further questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, in my observations and what I've seen in additional information around the potential possibility of a squirrel glider, the evidence that I've seen indicates to me that there's a lack of evidence to say that there was a squirrel glider present. The other information is that we know that species such as squirrel gliders and other reptiles and that are unlikely to stay around with such, I suppose, development around an area and the speedway. So I'm just really my thinking around whether the squirrel glider actually is there on site. I'm curious that I don't see that it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Other questions? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just had the question, one of the questions I had was that this proposal is a three-stage proposal, and I wondered if the squirrel glider affects every stage of that proposal. And the other one was, I think this proposal was already approved for development.
I'll go one at a time. I'll just take the first question first. Councillor Burns, to Mr CEO, to Mr Wallace. Three-stage proposal was the first question.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm advised by staff that that is the case in response to the first question. In relation to...
Well, sorry, I'll just get more. So can you explain the three stages there of that proposal briefly, or need to go to Mr Auld or... Yes, Mr Auld. Okay, thank you, Mr Auld.
Through you, Mr Mayor, while it's a three-stage development, the conditions have not been requested to be drafted to stage the retirement of credits. It's possible in a multi-stage development such as Kintyre Heights, where during the assessment process the proponent proposed a 12-stage development and sought approval to retire 1/12 of their credit liability before the commencement of each stage. That was approved, that's allowable by the department. That wasn't sought by the proponent, and I'm not in fact sure that the staging of the development was part of the original approval, or so the condition is drafted such that the entirety of the credit liability must be retired before any of the stages can be commenced.
Thank you, Mr Auld. Just to clarify there, so it might be a three-stage development, but the squirrel glider biodiversity offsets are one application rather than three stages.
So bearing in mind that there are more than simply squirrel glider liabilities, there are also ecosystem credit liabilities. All of those liabilities must be retired before any ground can be turned as per the requirements of the Biodiversity Conservation Act.
Thank you, Mr. Ord. So hopefully that answers that question, Councillor Burns. And then your second question.
My second question, I forgot what it was. Oh, wasn't it already approved by Council for Development? And then this has come up.
So thank you, Councillor Burns. I'll go with you, Ms. CEO, to Mr. Wallace.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, a development consent currently exists. So so the developer could choose to act on that consent. They do have a condition that they need to retire the squirrel glider credits before they apply for or receive a subdivision work certificate. So that is that is one of the processes that they just need to go through. But effectively, the consent exists already for that residential development.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. So essentially, Councillor Burns, the consent is approved with a condition being the biodiversity credits.
Okay.
So that's what this is seeking to potentially remove.
Okay.
Thank you. Further question
I just
or
wanted
comment?
I'll make a statement.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure that squirrel gliders would have been living right here where we're sitting at some point, but development keeps happening and they move away. So I got a feeling, in my opinion, that they've probably moved away from development. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Further questions? Councillor Chowdhury.
I don't have a question. Can I make a comment?
Yes.
And differently, I'm going to support Councillor Goff for shadow motion because I'm also an animal lover, but as the speaker has mentioned and the report we have seen, like a last squirrel glider has been seen like a 2018. It's been a long time, haven't been seen. And currently we have in like a housing shortage. So I think this development would be the crucial at this moment. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Further questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Can I now speak to the motion?
Yes.
I'll oppose Councillor Goff's foreshadowed motion. I think that although I also share her and the other concerns, I think the squirrel glider is probably long since gone and I don't think it's an issue. But if I read the papers correctly, I think that by virtually accepting Councillor Goff's motion, it's likely to land the applicant in more, push more trouble onto the applicant than otherwise might be expected because, as you say, that then it could be, the department may well take issue with it and object it. If we accept the motion that's on the books, that the application to retire the credits be refused, then I think that the applicant can come back with a revised proposal that may well achieve their aim without the risk of them having to be put through a public service or a court, land and environment court issue.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Further discussion or debate, councillors? Not yet, Councillor Wright, because you've got a right of reply. Oh, you've got a question. Yes, certainly.
Got a few questions, actually. Thank you. We talked about retiring those credits. Can you just explain to me at the moment roughly what that cost to the developer would be to retire those credits?
Just under $60,000.
Beautiful. Thank you. I was hoping the staff would have been able to tell me that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The proponent has indicated they've conducted further studies with regards to whether the evidence exists of sugar gliders in that area, and the studies they've undertaken indicated that they don't exist at the moment. But can maybe, through you, Mr. Mayor, some of the staff maybe indicate to me why the studies that the applicants undertaken are unsatisfactory and can't be utilised?
Certainly, through Mr. CEO to Mr. Wallace to Mr. Ord, or Mr. Ord to make comment, and I'm sure he's going to use a quote which I think is a valid quote. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence, which makes it very difficult to prove they're not there, but I'll hand over to Mr. Ord.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report in front of you identifies that the Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water were consulted back in March and asked how a proponent could disprove a legitimate sighting of a threatened species as reported in a biodiversity development assessment report. 4 criteria were presented to council. The report prepared by Mr. Botfield was assessed against those criteria and found to be wanting in a number of areas. Those issues were communicated to the proponent as a request for further information and to our perspective, inadequately answered. The issues are effectively, has the habitat that hosted the species been removed? No, it hasn't. Has the habitat that hosted the species been significantly changed? No, it hasn't. And the an issue raised by the proponent was that drought had significantly changed the habitat. The department expressly states that temporal changes such as fire, and in our case drought, do not remove the habitat's capacity to host a species that was once sited there. So for a range of technical reasons, including issues with some of the technology that was utilised and some of the techniques that were used, we question that the survey adequately disproves the presence of a very cryptic, shy species. And specifically, yes, you're right, Mr Mayor, the absence of evidence of a species is not evidence that that species is not present. It's very difficult to disprove the presence of a species. The issue, therefore, is has the habitat that hosted the species in the first place changed? No, it hasn't. The issue that's been raised a couple of times around the table that development post the sighting of the species has driven the species away. The species was sighted 6 years ago, 2018. There has not been significant development on or near that site in the last 6 years. So the argument that the Speedway has driven the species away, the Speedway existed before 2018. There has not been significant development on or near the site to justify the argument that the species has been driven away subsequent to its sighting in 2018.
Thanks, Mr Ord. So, Councillor Wright, further questions?
Yeah, look, just with respect to that $60,000, I guess on the surface of it, it seems that you sort of pay $60,000 and the problem goes away. But maybe you might be able to elaborate, or have someone on the staff elaborate as to where that $60,000, if it's paid by the proponent, where that's actually invested. My guess is that council doesn't receive that money.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I'll go to Mr CEO, to Mr Wallace, to Mr Alden. Just, Mr Alden, just remind you that just answering the question, be careful you don't enter the council debate. Just make sure you keep your answer to the question, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Biodiversity Conservation Act has a structure that applies across the state whereby impacts in one site can be offset financially or through protection of bushland in another site. Now, that can be elsewhere in the state. It doesn't have to be in the city of Dubbo. In this case, the availability of credits for squirrel gliders particularly is limited. What that likely means is that for the proponent to retire the credits, they will do so through a financial investment into a thing called the Biodiversity Conservation Trust. That's a New South Wales State Government managed fund which invests the funds that are invested into it by developers into biodiversity conservation as appropriate for the species that are being impacted, and that investment can take place across the state.
Thank you, Mr Ord. Councillor Wright.
That's all. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Further question? Councillor Mann.
Just wind back to Councillor Ivy's comments around, I just want to clarify, if we were to approve the motion as it reads rather than Councillor Goff's proposed motion, Councillor Ivy mentioned that that would save the proponents being forced into further troubles down the track. My reading of it is if we were to support Councillor Goff's proposed motion, that the proponents would then be able to go ahead and then any trouble would become the council's problem acting outside of our terms. Have I got that right?
Certainly the first one in relation, or the second one in relation to Councillor Goff, supported that, the developer could go ahead. In terms of any trouble down the track, happy to pass to the CEO to answer that particular part of it. Councillor Martin.
So that's certainly a risk based on our legal advice. So we would potentially be the focus of attention of the department in that regard. What that looks like is unknown.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Martin.
Yeah, just sorry, but my point was, I think Councillor Ivey was concerned that if we went down that path, we then push the proponents into more strife, for whatever that word might be. But I think they would be underway with their development and the strife because we've approved it. So.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Martin. CEO.
Yeah, so if I can just summarise the question. So if this motion currently gets defeated and Councillor Goff's one gets put forward and is resolved, yes, so what you're saying, that becomes our issue in terms with the regulator. I don't see a problem for the proponent with the regulator in that regard.
Yeah, thank you. That was
thank you.
The purpose of my question was just to get clarity on that because to me it sort of was reading the different way. And just another question, the total in this development, how much of the habitat as it stands today would be cleared by the proposed development?
Thank you, Councillor Martin. I'll go through Mr. CEO to Mr. Wallace to Mr. Auld. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The development has been well designed to minimise impact on the environment. There's a well-wooded hillside which sits between Morris Park Speedway and the predominant area of development. That is being retained. The clearing required for roads and pipes and infrastructure and housing sites is relatively small. I don't have a number of hectares in front of me because I don't have the report. It's not a question, we haven't been reconsidering the BDAR. But in consequence to the entire site, the majority of the bushland that is still present on site would be retained.
Thank you, Mr. Auld. Councillor Martin, further questions or debate?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So, councillors, any further questions or debate? So there being none, I'll give Councillor Wright a right of reply in one moment. But again, just to remind councillors, if you wish to refuse the application, then you'd vote in favour of this. If you wish to go with the foreshadowed motion from Councillor Goff, you'd need to defeat this, and then Councillor Goff could move her motion and then we'd debate that one. Councillor Wright, right of reply to things that are said in the debate.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Like I said earlier on, I'm a bit torn about it. Again, I'll come back to a common sense perspective, and I know I take a lot of respect of the staff and the technical advice and the time that they put into to providing that information to councillors to make a decision, and noting that there is a foreshadowed motion. I'll take consideration of that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, councillor. So, all those in favour of the motion to refuse the DA? All those against? Declare that lost. We've got a foreshadowed motion from Councillor Goff. Now there's no motion on the books. You can move your foreshadowed motion and make it the motion.
My alternative motion is the development application D2022122 Part 3 to 33 lot subdivision, lot 8 DP, do I have to read all this? 1063425 4L Camp Road Dubbo be approved as such that condition 5 be deleted. 2, that council grant delegation to the Chief Executive Officer to sign the determination.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Can I have someone second that, please? Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Goff, do you wish to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yeah, thank you, councillors. We can do it all again, but it's a similar subject, obviously. So, questions or debate? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think hearing the responses to questions a moment ago saying that a majority of the bushland will be retained gives me a sense of comfort that there is still bushland there if there is a squirrel glider in the area, and that potentially we'll have 33 homes on the cards, and there's a housing crisis, and so this is important in my belief. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Any other comments or debate, councillors? Councillor Goff, you have a right of reply to what Councillor Wells said if you wish to exercise that.
I'm here. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
So just to remind councillors, this would now be to approve the development and removing that condition in relation to the biodiversity credits. So all those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Next item, CCL 24/145, report of the Culture and Community Committee. Councillor Goff.
Oh, Josh.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Black, can we get someone to return Councillor Black? It'd be a long debate, I'd forgotten. Sorry, Councillor Black, I almost started without you. Councillor Goff.
I move that one.
Thank you. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Goff, do you wish to, is there anything you wish to say and accept from that meeting?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
You wish to speak to that particular
No,
committee
thank you,
meeting?
Mr Mayor.
Okay, any further discussion or debate? Councillor Ivey.
Just to clarify, Mr Mayor, we are talking about CCL 24/145.
145, report of the Culture and Community Committee.
I'll just make a comment, if I could, in relation to that. One of the items considered within that committee report is the report on the Wellington Caves and Holiday Park service review. The recommendation that is part of the motion deals with the 20 recommendations which that service review came up with. So we are now voting on the recommendation to accept that that review of those 20 recommendations. And I just want to bring attention to one of the recommendations is that the option for the long-term lease to potential REZ proponent and related governance matters be further explored in relation to the caravan park at the Caves. Where I would like certainly for that to be considered, I think that option for a long-term lease needs to be looked at in relation to the effect that that's likely to have on the tourism aspect of the Wellington Caves and Holiday Park, Caravan Park complex. I wouldn't like to see that lease, a long-term lease to the res people to be at the detriment of tourism within the area. I think it is a useful facility at the Caves. It's had problems. Just reading through again the service review report, the criticism of the standard of some of the accommodation there was quite pronounced. Now, people I know when they're doing surveys tend to be a bit more negative, or the negative people tend to be a bit more loud than the positive people. But there are issues out there at the caravan park which I think need to be addressed, and I wouldn't like to see just a long-term lease to the res people being an easy and cheap fix for that. I would rather see that looked at in relation to improving the standard of the accommodation there, such that the tourism potential out there is really realised. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I just really wanted to make mention of CCC 24/31, where we had a presentation by the Rugby New South Wales, came along and presented to the councillors and council around the development that they're doing across the community. And I wanted to give them another shout out. I think that they're doing a great piece of work, and I see every Friday they're facilitating rugby union in the number 1 oval area around there, and seeing young kids playing it every Friday. And it's just great to see kids focusing on sports and getting out of the house and not doing other things like playing games on TV games. Just wanted to make mention. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Goff, you have a right of reply if you wish to exercise it.
I just want to echo Councillor Ivey's comments about the caravan park. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have that before us now, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/146, report of the Corporate Services Committee. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move CSCL 24/146, save and accept CSC 24/28, which will be dealt with separately.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Have someone second that, please. Councillor Wright seconded that. You don't have a conflict.
No, it's in the next
It's in the save and accept. Is that? Oh, okay, sorry, right here. So someone else second that, please. Someone, Councillor Black, thank you. Councillor Wright, do you want to have a conflict?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will declare a pecuniary conflict of interest on item CSC 24/28, the proposed revision of lot prices at Keswick Estate.
Sorry, Councillor Wright, we've just excluded that we've saved and accept that, so that'll be dealt with after. So you don't need to do that one now. Yeah.
Press pause on that.
Thank you. So, Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to your motion in relation to the Corporate Services Committee excluding 24/28?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any other comment or debate, councillors, in relation to the CCL 24/146? No, there being none. I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Councillor Chowdhury again, please. CSC 24/28.
Yep. Yeah, move it.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. So you've just moved CSC 24/28 from that report. Thank you. Can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Wright.
Thank you very much. I would like to declare a pecuniary conflict in this particular item, which is the proposed revision of lot prices at Keswick Estate. I'm a landowner in that particular stage release, and as such, I'll leave the room for any debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. We'll wait for you to leave the room and be out of earshot. Thank you, councillors. So we have CSC 24/28 before us. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I just briefly make a comment. As you know, we have a clearly housing shortage, and we have a council on that Keswick Estate and release 2, but it's very slow the sale. But I can see on the last meeting there some recommendation has made. So hopefully council can accelerate the sales and demand the current housing demand. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Other discussion or debate, councillors, in relation to the Keswick Estate options?
It is confidential, so it's got to be kept high level.
Yes, thank you. So no further discussion or debate. Okay, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Okay, can we have Councillor Wright brought back in? Thank you, Councillor Wright. Next item, CCL 24/147, Multicultural Garden Public Consultation. We've got a notice of motion there from Councillor Chowdhury. We should move that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to place the following notice of motion on the agenda for the 27th of June 2024 ordinary meeting. The following is the council endorsed the placing of the 2 concept for the proposed multicultural garden be put on the public consultation with the aim to helping council settle upon a design and inform a future business case to source funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Has someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I firstly thank you on behalf of the multicultural community and also my multicultural advisory committee. Thanks all the staff, council staff, and my fellow councillor to continuously supporting, because we already got a funding for the Wiradjuri Cultural Tourism Centre, and the same site and near to that we're gonna proposing a multicultural garden. I think in Australia it will be the fantastic showcase, will be the harmony we have within our community. I have 2 elders here and they are continuously supporting us, and also I think this cultural precinct will be the biggest showcase to not only for Dubbo, also the whole nation, how the local community accepting the multicultural community here and how they're helping us to integrate it to this society. So I hope my fellow councillors will support, and also I would like to request all my community members to put some input when it goes to the public consultation, what you would like to see in that multicultural garden. So it just make it meaningful to everyone. It's not just for only one group, but one group is for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item on the agenda is CCL 24/148, notice of motion in relation to Scabbing Flat Bridge. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'd like to move the following motion, that the CEO have staff prepare an initial assessment for the feasibility of a new bridge across the Macquarie River near Geary, and that this be shared with Transport for New South Wales. This initial assessment could include, but not necessarily limited to, 1, the current state and suitability of the existing timber bridge. 2, the ownership and responsibility for maintenance / replacement of the bridge. 3, the historical significance of the existing bridge and the preservation benefits which would flow from early replacement of that bridge. 4, the need for a replacement bridge capable of conveying B-double trucks. This need to be demonstrated and supported by relevant statistics, including the value of agricultural production and the cost to the community of not having a reliable transport corridor. And 5, the estimated costs of the replacement bridge.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Ivey, do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think this motion is important. The bridge is an important link for the residents and the commercial businesses in that area. The bridge provides a good corridor for the Oval, Suntop, Arthurville, Terabella areas. It's a very rich agricultural area. It produces a lot of production. Having a single lane bridge which is not capable of carrying today's agricultural equipment, and certainly not capable in its present form of carrying agricultural produce, means that area is suffering economically. Now, I think, as Mr. Owen Johns said, it's a unique situation in that the bridge responsibility rests with Transport for New South Wales, but yet it is it connects two sections of road, if you like, on either side of the river, which are the responsibility of Dubbo Regional Council. So it's the sort of thing that we can't do too much work on without running the risk of Transport for New South Wales saying, well, if you're doing that, thanks very much, keep going and you can pay for it. I don't think that's fair, and that's not what we want. But what this council can do is, by preparing this business case and demonstrating, I presume, it may not, but I presume it will demonstrate the feasibility and the requirement of having a bridge capable of conveying the produce that, as I've outlined, then if we prepare that business case, it provides a very good basis for us to really start to put pressure on the relevant authorities to fund this important bit of infrastructure. So that's the intention of the notice of motion, to provide a base so that we as council can provide for or obtain funding to replace a very important bit of infrastructure in our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other discussion? Councillor Black.
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad to see that this initial assessment will be done internally by our excellent staff rather than by expensive consultants. And I've been in touch with the Minister's office, Jenny Aitchison, the Minister for Regional Transport and Roads, and they're aware of the issue, and I'll be having dinner with the Minister in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll bring it up then with her and tell her that we really do need this $30 million sooner rather than later. And Transport said that they're looking at early 2025 to have the bridge back up to its full load limit, so that'd be good if they could do that. Shame it'll be after harvest. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just make a comment. I'm really supporting Councillor Ivey's motion because I see it with Councillor Ivey in the village committee, and I know how important they've been, and today there was a speaker have spoken. I think this infrastructure is really critical for those surrounding villages, because it could affect their livelihood. And I think this critical business case would be really good for future funding source. And I hope like a council will make such a sort of business case can be placed, and we can get the funding and helping these regional communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Mann.
Just to comment, I'd like to congratulate the the local community out there that put this all together. I think they did a real model way of people, if you want to get your point across, to work with the council to get something on the agenda. They come forward with a lot of information, a lot of data, and the way that they contacted us and kept us in the loop of what they're trying to achieve, I think, is a really good example of people working towards what they want in an organised manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Further discussion or debate, councillors? No. Councillor Ivey, have a right of reply.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/149, determination of the operational model for double regional livestock markets. Councillor Goff.
I'd like to move a motion for option 3 with the inclusion, number 2.D, and the inclusion says, which isn't in the papers, that the new agent's permit fee of $12,686.83 be removed from miscellaneous charges and fees and charges of council and replaced with a $200 annual fee.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Sherry. Councillor Goff, you wish to speak to your motion?
I'm asking my fellow councillors to support option 3, which is improving status quo. I believe, after having numerous conversations with farmers and not even people in the agricultural sector, the livestock markets is very important for our entire community and beyond. I'm very concerned about the knock-on effect if it was outsourced and leased to someone else. I'm concerned about local businesses, stock carriers, feedlots, everything. I've taken everything into consideration, and I'd really think we should keep it in-house and improve modifications.
Thank you.
Improved modifications.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Other speakers in relation to this item, councillors? Councillor Sherry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support Councillor Goff because I think this is a very important matter, and I would like to thank all the committee members came tonight and showing their support, because after I seen this report, I've been numerous times to contact with different stakeholders, and I believe this community chosen us to represent them, and we need to listen to this community, and we need to hear all the fact and find the, and also I'd like to thank council staff. They're giving us a lot of information, giving us all the data. So I'm really grateful to them. But I think we need to listen to the community, what really this community want. And that's why I'm supporting Councillor Goff, keep it in the house and improve the status quo. And I would like to see there was a healthy collaboration between the DRC and the other stakeholders. So how we can improve our cellular, this cellular not for any individual, this cellular for our region, this cellular represent a lot of people and their livelihood. So this is very critical decision. I'm not expert in cellular, but I'm grateful to everyone who giving me and my fellow council all the information. But I will definitely supporting Councillor Goff tonight. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sherry. Councillor Black.
Thank you. So I've approached this with an open mind. Everyone pretty much here would know that I was one of the 2 councillors that voted against going to the expression of interest for the sale or lease process a few months ago. Councillor Etheridge was away from that meeting. Privatisation in Australia, the other 2 options of a lease or sale, most people have seen that privatisations generally don't serve the best interests of the community and leads to price rises. And when we've got something that's basically a monopoly in town, I'm not sure why we might want to sell that. So option 3, it's good that Councillor Goff has come on board with the modified status quo option. And it's a shame that we went down the EOI process because it has created a lot of trauma in the community, and the big roll-up tonight is testament to that, and all the phone calls and emails that we've been getting. With the modified status quo option, it avoids privatisation. The ratepayers and councils still retain the asset. At any time in the future, if modified status quo wasn't working, we could look to tweak that a bit to make sure it does work. As for the figures in the report here, the $16 and $2 charges, look, council staff have put a lot of work into this, so I'll trust them that they've got this on the money. There is a sweet spot with the difference between carting to Carcoar or carting to Forbes as opposed to staying in Dubbo. So I thank staff for their efforts to arrive at that figure. Again, what's the rush to push this through before the election? It's more important that we get it right. So hopefully people will, other councillors will support this motion and we will have it right. A 20-year lease, in my view, has the same impact as a sale on the stakeholders and users of the sale yards. So why not give modified status quo a go, and we can always tweak it and make it better. If it's not exactly like in the report here, we can make changes and make it better. And we do need to do the asset renewal at the sale yards. Everyone who's been there knows that we probably need to update those sheep yards in coming years and make other improvements. So hopefully this provides the amount of money that make the yards self-sustaining and better, and we can provide for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Other speakers? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will be happy to support Councillor Goff's additional motion or foreshadowed motion. I just wanted to, I suppose, thank the audience or the public forum coming tonight and speaking further into their interest in why. And I wanted to point out that I heard a couple of really interesting things. One about the online process, which I found was it's a great opportunity to look at that. And also not only Councillor Chowdhury, but the speakers talked about better collaboration with council and the DSSA. So I think these are all really a great ways forward, and happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Other speakers? Sorry, Councillor Mann just got in front of Councillor Burns. Councillor Mann first, then Councillor Burns.
I won't repeat everything that's been said already. I'm going to support option 3, but I agree with almost everything except Councillor Black around the saying it's a shame that we looked at the part of the EOI was leasing and sale. I think as representatives of the community, it's our job to look under every stone, have a look at all the options. We've done that. We've got our information. We know the value of perceived value of the yards, and we can come back and we can say, right, we've done the job. We've looked at everything we needed to do. Yes, it did cause some angst, and for that is unfortunate. But at the end of the day, we come back and we decide that we're going to move forward in a collaborative way on a modified status 3. I think it's well and truly worth the effort, and I think we've taken the right process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I just want to say that I want to thank the fellow councillors for putting the first motion up to look into this, because it's one thing that we really needed to do, obviously now, because we found out that things have been happening the way they shouldn't be happening. So, but I'm totally against selling the property. I would rather, I was kind of leaning towards the lease, but I'm torn between lease and modified status quo. Modified status quo means that we're taking on a lot of the costs involved in running it, but we almost had it right. So modifications wouldn't be too bad to get it running into a profitable situation. But the main thing is to remember that we're thinking about the ratepayers. We're not thinking about anything else but the ratepayers, and we were trying to save in ratepayers' money. So that's all I want to say. I'm going to support the. I'm definitely not going to support sale, but I'll be voting on one of the other two at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Further speakers? Councillor Ivey, I think, just got ahead. So, Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, as with Councillor Marr, I'd take issue with Councillor Black's comments about the problems with going into the expressions of interest. I think it was absolutely vital that we did that. Absolutely vital. I'm a new term councillor, but I've had a fair bit of involvement with the council sale yards over the years. And coming onto council, it was obvious that there were problems between the Dubbo Regional Council and the operators, the DWSA of that, the operators of the sale yards. I've seen correspondence where there's open criticism of the Dubbo Regional Council's operation sent by a lawyer and sent by the representative of the operating entity. So there were obviously problems there, have been for a number of years. There were legal aspects. We've got very good legal advice that says the model under which we are operating at present is not, it's illegal. It's not fit for purpose, and it needs to be looked at and changed. In doing an in-depth analysis of the operation of the sale yards as it's been over the previous years, I find that the operation of the sale yards has been costing the council money. It has been costing the council money. And when we say the council, we mean the residents of the Dubbo Regional Council. Why should Mr and Mrs Smith, who live in George Street in Dubbo, subsidise the operation of the Dubbo Regional Council sale yards? Certainly the going to expression of interest has stimulated a lot of feedback. I can say that obviously I've been approached by a number of people opposing what the expression of interest intended to do, to look at those three options. I can tell you I've also been approached by a number of very influential people within the industry who've said to me, good on you, good on you. That whole setup needs to be looked at and it needs to change. What is happening at present is not how it could be or how it should be to give the maximum benefits to the region. So with that background, why would we not undertake a detailed review of the operation of the sale yards? And that has to, or it had to, include all three options. Continue as it is now, lease it out, or sell it. That had to be, if we were, as councillors, are doing our due diligence, we had to look at those three options. And to receive the criticism we've received by doing our jobs, I find very, very upsetting, because I can tell you, I'm here for one reason, and I'm here to try to get the best deal for the residents of the Dubbo Regional Council area, the LGA. I'm not here to look after the agents, I'm not here to look after the producers, I'm not here to look after the carriers. I am here to give the best deal for the residents. And in doing that, I had to look at all these options. Now, I agree, I was always opposed to sale. I think the 100 acres of land that is the Dubbo Regional sale yards, strategically it's too valuable. Don't worry about the economic thing. I think strategically we'd be crazy to sell it. But, you know, if one of the expressions of interest had come in and said, look, we'll give you $100 million for it, gee, we would have had to have a look at that. We didn't get an offer of $100 million, but we were...
Sorry, Councillor Ivey, I just remind you to be very careful we don't mention anything out of the confidential report. I know you haven't, you're just getting close there. So,
yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
That was very much a hypothetical figure. So the review process was necessary, and it's produced a whole lot of very interesting information. I think, again, look, I would lean in favour of leasing. You say, why would I leave in favour of leasing? Because I can tell you, running sale yards in this day and age is a very complex business. It requires a lot of skill. Our staff does a fantastic job, no doubt about them. But they are not experts in running sale yards. You know, it is a specialised industry. And I would love to see a very specialised operator put their hand up and say, look, I want to lease this because I think I can do much, much better than what's been done in the past. And I think that may well be possible. There are players out there which may well be able to do a better job than what we're doing. Not only at present, but this industry in the next 10 years will not look like it looks now. There'll be enormous changes in livestock marketing. It's happened a bit in the last 10 years, the last 20 years. I believe that that's nothing to what is going to happen in the next 10 years. And I don't know whether Dubbo Regional Council is really in the best placed position to capitalise on some of those changes. So that was why initially I'd be leaning in favour of leasing, on the basis that if it would only be leased though if it provided a very good return to the council. If it doesn't provide that return, then we would default back into the modified status quo. I just saw that the leasing option as a very good option, because the fallback position, if it wasn't acceptable, if it didn't have demonstrable benefits, then we could revert back to the modified status quo. So that's my position. I'd prefer leasing as an option on the basis that it would demonstrably produce a better return than the modified status quo. But if that motion, if I don't get up with that leasing option, then I will again work very hard and to make the modified status quo work to the advantage of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and I'm probably going to echo a lot of sentiment amongst my fellow councillors as well. And I just want to start by saying that this council in this term, they've taken an opportunity to review the entire business of council and included all aspects of the business. And I don't need to tell my councillors, they know how diversified the business is. You know, when we start talking airports and pools and caves and jails and caravan parks and sporting fields, it's an extremely diversified business. And there's been reviews conducted on a number of those particular assets. And at this point in time, we've just come to the review on the Dubbo Regional Livestock Markets, and that's where we are today, of course. Over the last 6 months or so, not over the last few weeks, but it's certainly probably over the last 6 months, this group of councillors has had numerous workshops on the topic, and we've had presentations from external legal specialists and a number of staff that have provided us with a substantial amount of information, and I think all councillors have really tried to absorb that. But like all the other councillors, I'm in no way, I no way underestimate the economic contribution to the Dubbo Regional Livestock Markets to the LGA. It's obviously significant. However, the economic contribution to council and subsequently ratepayers, that also needs to be considered. And irrespective of the many opinions that the audited financial statements presented by council show us that the livestock markets, it does actually run at a cost to ratepayers, and that's a concern and something we obviously need to address. I've tried to look at this from a number of different angles. Obviously, we're talking about community angle, economic angle, and even from a business angle from council. And I look at all the risks associated with running a livestock market, and all these risks. You know, we start talking cash flow risk and market risk, and workplace health and safety risks, and IT risk. You know, we talked about IT and selling online a little earlier. What will that look like, as Councillor Ivey said, in 10 years' time? I don't know. You know, is the trend of selling live animals at the market going to continue to sort of, is it plateaued? Is it going to decrease? We don't know. That's a risk. Depreciation risk. Obviously, we've got big assets out there, and again, irrespective of conversation, there's a way that council does need to depreciate assets, and it's presented in audited reports. With all that considered, I'm probably on a similar line to Councillor Ivey. You know, if I'm looking to remove those risks, get a guaranteed cash flow and return to council and subsequently to ratepayers to get some concern going, or some certainty going forward, that lease option seems to be the one that stands out for me. Probably like a lot of the other councillors, I too have probably considered selling the livestock markets to be the furthest from the preferred option. I know it's been said, and I probably, again, I disagree as well with Councillor Black's comment there with respect to the EOI. It had to be done, sale, lease, or modified status quo. We had to know, and none of us, we could say we didn't know what we didn't know. You know, we had to gather that information, and that exercise gave us a tremendous amount of intel to be able to make a decision where we are here today as well. Look, again, my preferred option would probably be the lease. I can absolutely see that the support for the modified status quo. The staff have put a huge amount of effort into it as well and presenting that to us, and certainly it looks like that could work. But as Councillor Ivey said, if that was the option that got up, look, certainly I'd do everything as well that we could to make sure that could work for all the stakeholders involved. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. That's everyone. No other further questions from councillors? No other comments or questions? So, Councillor Goff, you now have a right of reply to anything that was said in the debate as the move of the original motion. Just try and keep it to what was said in the debate, if you can, please.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got option 3 in front of us. Option 3 is, as per the business papers, the only change that Councillor Goff made was point D, that the new agent's permit fee of $12,686 be removed and replaced with a $200 annual fee. That's in front of us at the moment. So, councillors, all those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. So that's option 3. Now, I will call for a 5-minute adjournment. I suspect there may be some people in the audience who may want to leave after that particular item on the agenda, and I'll call for a 5-minute adjournment so you've got that opportunity to leave now if you like. Although, having said that, the next item is a $180 million budget that we're going to debate, so I'd love you to stay for that debate as well. Thank you for your respectful behaviour tonight, and thank you for attending. Thank you. Thank you for the people who remained in the audience here to watch the next items on the agenda. And thank you to our listeners and viewers from home who have tuned back in. The next item on the agenda is CCL 24/150, the draft 2024-2025 budget, operational plan and associated documents. And I've got a resolution from Councillor Wright. So I think, Councillor Wright, you're doing 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, but you've got a modified 2 in amongst that, as opposed to what's in our business papers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Almost like you read my mind. So just an amended motion. So if we can just, I'm just going to shorten this. 1 to remain. 2 is that a $30,000 allocation for the concept of a Dubbo Indoor Aquatic Centre be funded from operational savings. 3 to remain. 4 to be removed. 5 will then become 4. 6 will become 5. 7 will become 6. And I have a new 8, which will actually be our 7, I think, by the look at that, which will be that as per the fee adjustment in report CCL 24/149, the new agent's permit fee of $12,686.83 be changed to $200 per annum and updated in the miscellaneous charges, the fees and charges of council.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Can someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Wright, you should speak to that.
Look, I will say a couple of things with respect to the budget itself. You know, it's I know we had a large crowd of people here for a pretty significant decision of council, but we're about to move on forward with about $180 million budget and about $80 million capital expenditure program just for the next 12 months, and that's pretty significant as well when we look at that. I think there's a couple of things that Councillor Wells wanted to highlight as well, and there's some pretty big items in there, and certainly it starts on page 22 of that particular report in the capital expenditure section when we start looking at the money that's being spent, and there's some of these are only smaller items, you know, and we look at $400,000 for CCTV, which goes direct to sort of public safety over the next 2 years. There's $650,000 to renew Elston Park. There's about $400,000 for Victoria Park amenities. $6 million to complete the old Dubbo Jail and Plaza and the event precinct. Finally, we know that's been going on for a very, very long time. There's been a lot of delays there. There's about $26 million over the next 2 years on rural road construction and repair. That's a significant amount of money as well. So there's bridges, water supply renewals, irrigation. There's just so much in that, and it's great for the community to be able to see what's being spent over the next 4 years across all of those different facets of council. So look, it's a big item, and obviously, it would be nice to have a bigger crowd here to watch it. But nevertheless, they're my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Now, other discussion or debate, or Councillor Ivey might even have an amendment. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd amend point 4 in the original motion.
Sorry, just go back a step. I think they've slid up now, so you'd slot yours in at the end.
Right, okay, so 4 is, you're right, so 4 has been taken out, and so I have a new point, which a new number, which can be inserted in that motion, and that is in relation to the Cameron Park toilets. My motion amendment would be that council determine A, that no determination on the funding options for the Cameron Park toilets be made. B, that a further report be brought to a future meeting of council, which includes the following. Point number 1, detailed drawings and detailed costings for alternative configurations to increase the number of toilets. And 2, alternative funding models for the Cameron Park toilets, including the voluntary planning agreement for the Oongalar wind farm, which is presently which is owned by Squadron Energy. So that would be the amended motion to include those items.
So, Councillor Ivey, I can do something a bit tricky here, if you wish. If Councillor Wright and Councillor Chowdhury are happy with those to be added in, then they can form part of the original motion. But you can have it as an amendment, so it can be debated separately if you wish. I just thought it's a bit cleaner. If Councillor Wright and Councillor Shallery are happy to have that added in, then we can do that if you wish.
I think it would be better. That's preferable.
Certainly, if Councillor Wright and Councillor Shallery are happy with that.
Certainly, thank you.
Okay, so essentially, Councillor Wright, what you've moved is exactly what you've moved before, with Councillor Ivey's number 8 in there. So that's the whole amount there. With all of that included, now that's what we'll debate overall. So discussion or debate on all of that, including the point that Councillor Ivey made, and you can, if you want to, you can start off because you've moved that part, but you don't have to. So discussion or debate on the entire motion.
Well, I'm happy to kick off the debate, and I will just refer to that item which I've included in relation to the Cameron Park toilets. These have been discussed before. There's certainly a very good community consensus that the existing infrastructure there in Cameron Park in relation to toilets is inadequate. We put some options out for public consultation, and I must admit I think the response, for whatever reasons, was a bit underwhelming. So I don't know that we really learnt too much from that public consultation process. That this motion then enables us to go back to that to come up with some specific drawings and specifications that would increase that toilet facility, if you like, in Cameron Park. The other item that has been added in there is that we explore the options for funding that through the voluntary planning agreement community benefit fund that has been negotiated with Squadron Energy in respect of the Oongala wind farm. Again, I think, as councillors would be aware, I'm very think it's very important that we do promote the benefits to the community of some of these renewable energies via the community benefit funds that will produce some extra benefits to the region, not as a replacement to some of the commitments which council or state government or federal government would ordinarily have to do. But I think that this does fall within that category. I mean, there are toilet facilities in the park. Some people might argue, I think on this council might even argue that they're adequate. So we do have the basic facilities. I think that it would be fair that some of the community benefit funds from the renewables be used to provide a much better toilet facility. So that's why I'm very keen to include that in this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other discussion or debate? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. While we're on the discussion of loos, I wanted to talk about the previous discussions we've had at Council for the budget for the Dubbo Cemetery toilet facilities. That is actually in Year 2 at the moment for Year 2 and Year 3. And that's great to see that it's in there. I really would like to understand how we could get it into the next budget rather than waiting till Year 2. I understand that construction might not occur. Just knowing that there's been a bit of community interest in getting the loos out there at the cemetery. So just planting that seed, please.
So, Councillor Wells, if you felt strongly about that, you could move an amendment to move that money forward. Might mean some juggling around or might mean some money out of savings, but yes, if you felt strongly that could be an amendment you could move.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd actually like to move that amendment, please.
Okay, what we might do, if we might just get Ms Wade just to do up some words. We'll continue on the debate while Ms Wade gets you some words, so we've got something there that makes sense. And if it gets desperate, we can call a 5-minute adjournment for you to get those words right, but I'll just see if Ms Wade can work with Mr Arms to get some words for you and then give it to you. If that's okay, then we can move that. So keep that thought there and then continue on the debate around the rest of the motion at the moment, councillors. So further discussion or debate, councillors, on the rest of the items there. Councillor Shallery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just echoing with Councillor Wright, I'd love to see many people stay here for this big budget we are delivering for this financial year. And anyway, they left, but
some people here.
Yeah, there's some people here showing us support. Anyway, the budget is really crucial, and I think I would really like to thank you, the people putting their comments and suggestions during the public consultation. And I would like to highlight one thing, to my fellow councillor to supporting that $30,000 from saving from the operational budget for the concept of the indoor pool, because I know there was a lot of cry for them council from the community to see an indoor pool, and something is coming up in light, and I'm glad to see it's happening now. Hopefully council can do a real good concept, so and future business case, so council can get some money from state and federal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Showery. Other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
I'd like to move an amendment, and it's along the lines of that the $4 by $100,000 sign budget sign update budget is reallocated to Urban Roads Renewal Heavy Patching Program.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Just get a seconder for that, please. Councillor Burns. Councillor Black, you wish to speak to your amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Yes, I think that it'd be better value for ratepayers' money to actually put it to a better use than updating some signs that say are outdated because they say Dubbo City Council or Wellington Shire Council. I think that people would much rather see that money invested back into fixing up desperately needed bits of roadwork there. And this would be a 20% increase in the Urban Road Renewal Heavy Patching Program, which is just under $500,000. So if we put another $100,000 into that, that'd be a real fillip to that line item there. And I just feel that we should be doing something that people actually can experience every day, better roads, not smashing their cars up, keeping the roads in a better shape, than changing a sign that simply says Dubbo City Council on it and is otherwise in good condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Discussion or debate on the amendment only, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
I'll vote against the amendment. I know we've had this discussion before, but look, we are a professional organisation dealing with a $180 million budget. It's not just a little backyard operation. Let's be a bit professional. Let's show that the public, the visitors, the people that come into our area, that this is a region that can be that we can be proud of, that outwardly presents well and doesn't show that it's quite happy to leave 10-year-old signs in position that are outdated or are incorrect or ill-informed. We voted on it before, we've allocated some money, we've got a progressive program. It's not that we're going out to do them all in one hit, we're doing it progressively. Let's just keep with that and let's get this region, at least the appearance, improved, that it's up to date and not living in the past.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other discussion or debate? Councillor Showery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will definitely vote against this motion bring by Councillor Black, because I don't think like 100,000 enough for that heavy patching on the road, and we already allocate some money, and I hope like a council will work hard to get more grant from the federal and state government to share, keep improving our road, but 100,000 is nothing, and I'm not sure why we're gonna take a decision put our old sign, keep our old sign still there. So I'll definitely vote against that alternative motion. Thank you.
Thank you. That's an amendment, Councillor Showery, but thank you,
Sorry,
Councillor Showery.
yeah.
Other discussion or debate, councillors? This is just on the amendment. No. Councillor Wright, you have a right of reply to everything that was said for the amendment, including Councillor Black, Councillor Ivey and Councillor Showery in relation to the signs only, and only what they said to reply to any of those.
So I'll have you repeat that again, sorry, Mr. Mayor, to all of it, including the signs, the toilet, and...
No. So this is just the amendment?
Just the amendment.
So you've got a right of reply to everything that was said in the debate on the amendment. So you've got a right of reply to what Councillor Black said, to what Councillor Ivey said, what Councillor Showery said. You've got to limit your comments to respond to anything that those three councillors said on the amendment only, the sign amendment only.
No comment for me, thank you.
Went through all that. Okay, councillor, so the amendment is before us. Do you want to just read it out again for us, councillor Black, please?
Yes, it says that the 4 years by $100,000 sign update budget is reallocated to the Urban Roads Renewal Heavy Patching Program.
Thank you, councillor. So that's the amendment only we're voting on. So all those in favour of the amendment? Sorry, before we do that, councillor Chowdhury had a question. You can't debate.
No, just a clear question because Councillor Ivy and I have that amendment here. So are we dealing with 3 or just only 1?
So at this stage, we're only dealing with the amendment for the signs. That's it. Nothing else on any of the other points. It's just the amendment that councillor Black read out to us. So I'll go back and say all those in favour of the amendment. All right, against? Declare that lost. Thank you, councillors. So now we're back to dealing with the original motion. Now remember, councillor Chowdhury, they weren't amendments. What councillor Ivy had is now part of the overall motion, so we have no amendments there. If, for example, councillor Wells wanted to bring her amendment forward now, she could, because we're not dealing with any amendments. Not putting words in your mouth, councillor Wells, but you could do that now if you wished.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I do have the amendment reworded, and also, so I'm going to read the amendment, then I have a comment. Is that okay?
Yes, you have amendment. I'll get someone to second it, and then you can speak to the amendment.
Okay, so my amendment for CCL 24/150 is that the funding allocated for the provision of the toilet facilities at the new Dubbo and Wellington lawn cemeteries be brought from years 2 and 3 to years 1 and 2 respectively.
Thank you, councillor Wells. Can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, councillor Goff. Councillor Wells, this is speaking to the amendment now.
Thank you. So the reason I think that it's really important to bring it forward is that I've had lots of conversations around the need for the toilets at the cemeteries. I think it's really important that we listen to our community, as we've done tonight. In the budget, there's also $400,000 set aside for Victoria Park amenities. Is there any way that we can adjust some of that $400K to go towards this? Since I'm just providing an option. I'm not a financial advisor. I just know there's $400,000 there for Victoria Park amenities.
It's not part of the amendment as such, so that might be a way, a strategy, if you like, of how that might be utilised, but the amendment doesn't address that in particular. Happy to throw to the CEO because he's given me a look that he wants to say something.
That's grant funded as well. So, but what you're alluding to is, I guess, some of the mechanics by which we might shuffle. So you don't like saying it, but the challenge we have is to how do we fund that bringing forward of capital works? Sometimes that might be project savings in the recreational open space and budget, something like much to what Councillor Chowdhury said for the concept for the pool.
So you brought it forward and we'll let our staff work out the other technicalities of that. But and just to reiterate there, what the CEO said is because the facilities there are grant funded, they're for a specific project, so you can't then just take them and knock them across to somewhere else.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I wasn't suggesting they do it. I just proposed it as an opportunity to look at. Thank you.
So thank you. So you've spoken to the amendment. Other speakers about the amendment? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate Councillor Wells bring that forward because I have spoken many times with Councillor Wells, and then I reach out to community, and community really loved that idea, and they're really looking forward to see this toilet happen, like a building soon rather than late, because you never know. People go there for a few hours, and if they need an emergency, where they're gonna go? So I completely support Councillor Wells' alternate motion, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Any other? Councillor Black?
Thank you. Yes, well done, Councillor Wells. It is greatly needed, and all of the people who work out there with the funeral homes will tell you how desperately needed a toilet is. One funding strategy might be the sign budget could be allocated to the toilets. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other comments or debate, councillors? No councillors? Okay, Councillor Wright, you have a right of reply to everything that was said on the amendment in relation to the toilets that was said by anyone else.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I might ask a question, actually, and it was in relation to a comment that Councillor Wells did make with respect to, and I hope I can ask it here, those Victoria Park amenities, which indicated...
Sorry, you can't ask a question now because you've only got a right of reply. We finished the debate and I've given you a right of reply to anything that was said in the debate.
No comment then, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Okay, so we have the amendment before us.
I could have easily made a comment and expressed how expensive that Victoria Park amenities seem to be.
Well, I'm glad you didn't, Councillor Wright. Okay, we have an amendment before us, councillors, in relation to the toilets from Councillor Wells. So, and actually, I'll just get you to read that again, Councillor Wells, just as I did with Councillor Black, to make sure everyone's clear on that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The amendment for CCL 24/150 is that funding allocated for the provision of toilet facilities at new Dubbo and Wellington lawn cemeteries be brought from year 2 and year 3 to years 1 and year 2 respectively.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. That's all we're voting on for the moment, councillors, on that amendment only. All those in favour of that amendment? All those against? Declare that carried. Okay, so that becomes part of the substantive motion. That would be point 9, I think, now, because that would be, yes, point 9. So that's the motion. So we're back to debating that motion. On the overall motion, we've had Councillor Wells, Councillor Chowdhury, Councillor Black and Councillor Wright enter the debate on the overall draft budget operational plan and associated documents. So any further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright, you have a question.
Read my mind. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just with respect to that Victoria Park amenities there, I know it's a pretty specific amount of $403,486, which does seem like a pretty large amount compared to the Taj Mahal that was built over in Lions Park in West Dubbo, 3D printed. Is a comment that was actually grant funded? Is that actually quoted specifically for that, like for exactly that amount of money?
Good question, Councillor Wright, asking in this part of the debate now. I'll go through the CEO to Mr. Arms.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's an estimate. We're actually going live very soon with community consultation with regard to that in terms of location and size, and because where it is located at the moment is deep within the park. Is there a better location? So that $400,000 will allow us to do that scoping exercise and narrow down a design as well. So the ultimate price may be different from that. But we will certainly come back to council with the results of that community consultation.
And that includes demolition, I assume, of the existing ones, Mr. Arms?
Yeah, if I may, yes. And there's connections to sewer and other costs. And so it's not just the construction of the facility itself, it's those other elements as well.
Thank you, Mr. Arms. Further questions, Councillor Wright?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, further discussion or debate, councillors, on the points before us at the moment? Councillor Black.
Thank you. I have further...
You've already entered the debate, so you can have a question.
Could I just ask, did I enter the debate or only talk on a couple of amendments?
Well, I've got a D next to your name, which means debate. I normally put a Q next to someone's name if it's just a question. So on the original motion there, I had you entering the debate. But I'm sure you're clever enough to enter the debate again with a question if you so desire.
I'm pretty sure I didn't enter the debate, but we'll get to that later. I've got an amendment. Another amendment. What? Go to the video. Oh, we'll after.
So, Councillor Black, your amendment.
That the $100,000 sign budget from next year, year 1, is reallocated to fix the road at Butler's Falls. Full stop.
I'll just check with the CEO, but I don't think I can accept that because when you lose a resolution and then you move another resolution that's the same or similar intent, then you need a rescission motion to be able to do that. I will double check with the CEO, but that's my initial impression because it's so similar to one that was just lost. I know it's differently worded, but our code of meeting practice says if it's so similar, then you would need a rescission motion to go forward with that. But I'll just seek the advice. If you bear with me for a moment, I'll seek the advice of the CEO and just see if he confirms my initial suspicion. So, Councillor Black, if you refer to section 17.5 in our Code of Meeting Practice, it doesn't matter if you haven't got it there, I'll read it out. That reflects section 372-3 of the Act, and the exact wording of it from our Code of Meeting Practice is, if a motion has been lost, a motion having the same effect must not be considered unless notice of it has been duly given in accordance with clause 3.9, which I think relates to rescission. And then 17.6, a notice of motion to alter or rescind a resolution and a notice of motion which has the same effect as motion which has been lost must be signed by 3 councillors, etc., in relation to a rescission motion again. And then 17.7, I think, is the more relevant one. If a motion to alter or rescind a resolution has been lost, or if a motion which has the same effect as a previously lost motion is lost, no similar motion may be brought forward within 3 months of the meeting at which it was lost. This clause may not be evaded by substituting a motion differently worded, but in principle the same. And again, you can get around that by a rescission motion, but what I would rule in this case is that the $4 by $100,000 remove of the signed budget to go towards roads and then taking away again the $100,000 budget for the same is in 17.7, I would say would be in contravention of that part. Obviously, so that's my official ruling. You can ask for a motion of dissent if you so desire, and if you don't agree with that, and then councillors can vote on that motion of dissent if you so desire.
No, I won't vote on motion of dissent or whatever, that's all right, but yeah, no, I won't. I would on the whether I entered debate or not, but not on that one.
Oh, yeah, so no other amendments? You don't have to move them now, but I know you're going to move an amendment on that one. Nothing else for the moment then? Okay, thank you. Further discussion or debate, councillors, in relation to, again, the 9 items that we have in front of us at the moment? No further discussion or debate. I now, going once, going twice, I now go back to Councillor Wright as the original root of the motion, a right of reply, this is going to be good for you, a right of reply to everything that was said in the debate about this. So that was what I've got is what was said by Councillor Wells, Chowdhury and Black in the discussion and debate about this particular resolution.
I was actually going to, I wasn't sure how I'd put this up, but just a point of order. I was just trying to think when Councillor Black did enter that debate. Whether he actually didn't. Right? No further comment then, Mr. Mayor. No.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Okay, we have before us now the original motion with the change number 2, the moving up of other items. Number 4 becomes our new number 8 and number 9 becomes the toilets. So all those in favour of that? All those against? Declare that carried. Well done, councillors. We got through there. Next item, CCL 24/151, making of rates and charges. Councillor Goff. So moved.
Yeah, I moved that. Yep. You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Second that, please. Come on, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Goff, you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Discussion or debate? Councillor Black.
Thank you. In the previous meeting where this came up, I voted against a 5% rate rise. It was 5%, I'm pretty sure, because I think that we really do need to find more efficiencies to reduce substantial rate rises on the community out there. So I'll vote against this, but I'm really only voting against the 5% rate increase. I'd be happy with a 2.5%, but I just think that 5 is a bit too much. So I'll just save doing whatever, we'll just do the whole lot, doesn't matter. But I just wanted to put that on the record that I'm not a big fan of rate rises and I'd like to find the savings internally if we can, but 5% would be just a bit too much for people in this cost of living crisis. Thank you.
And Councillor Black, you're probably aware of this anyway, but you could, if you wanted to, have that part removed so you can vote on the rest of it. If you wanted to vote, if you felt strongly enough for voting in favour of the rest and against the rate rise, you could do that. You can do what you just outlined, entirely up to you. But that's fine. Okay, thank you. And so I've got you, Councillor Black, as having entered the debate now. So that was your one chair to the debate. Other councillors, questions or debate? Councillor, no others. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I will make a comment that, as Councillor Black said, that things are pretty tight for ratepayers and other members of the LGA, whether they're ratepayers or not. But and certainly there's possibly an argument for increasing rates well above 5% because the cost to run council has been well above 5%, or the increase in cost to run the council has been well and truly more than 5% over the last 12 months, as everyone's well aware with CPI increases and different things. So I think council's taken a bit of a hit on this by increasing just by that 5%. We've seen a number of councils apply for special rate variations, and I think the fact that this council hasn't, and with a good example, we talked about the regional livestock markets as a massive sort of service review there to find some savings there is proof that we are having a bit of a crack at that. So I think hopefully the next council can continue that on and continue to try and find those savings. So I'm pretty comfortable with a 5% increase. I think it's still a bit below CPI, but I think it's fair on both sides.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. It seems like there's no... Oh, sorry, Councillor Ivey.
Just a follow-on from Councillor Wright's comments. I would see that the rate rise and the need to increase efficiencies go hand in hand. They're not one or the other, as Councillor Black said. Instead of having a 5% rate rise, we should increase some efficiencies. I think we've got to do both. I think we've got to maintain the buying power of our council, of our budget, but at the same time we always have to be very vigilant to see where savings can be made.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Goff, you have a right of reply to anything that was said in the debate if you wish.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No. Thank you. I have that before us now. CCL 24/151, making of the rates and charges. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/152. I have an alternative motion. Councillor Mann. And probably just to make it easier, just read the whole thing, if that's all right, Councillor Mann.
No problem. I'd like to move an alternative motion, please. Number one, the council delegate the additional functions as outlined in the report for the period of the 14th of September to the 2nd of October 2024, or until the declaration of the new councillors, whichever occurs first, due to the local government elections. Point two, that the use of any of these extended delegations be reported to the first full meeting of the new council on the 24th of October 2024. Point three, the council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer Murray Alexander Wood a power of attorney for the period of 14th of September to the 2nd of October 2024, or until the declaration of the new councillors, whichever occurs first, due to the local government elections. Point five, the council authorise the mayor and deputy mayor to execute the general power of attorney under the common seal of the council. Point five, that council rescind the power of attorney granted to the chief executive officer upon the newly elected body taking office. And point six, that the chief executive officer report to council on all documents signed under the prescribed power of attorney during this period.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Mann, do you wish to speak to that?
Look, just the original motion, I felt that point seven in regard to the ceremonial delegation to the mayor was probably a bit incongruous with the concept of the going into caretaker mode and the previous elected body standing down, and I just feel that these delegations, also with the dates, we had it locked in on a standard date of 2nd of October. We've extended that, or I'm suggesting we extend that to include until the declaration of the new councillors, whichever occurs first, just in case there's any delay or recount or etc., which just covers more bases.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
I thank Councillor Mann for bringing this alternative motion, and for those who read their papers along at home or in the public gallery here, they'd see that point 7 was removed, and I think that's a good thing for democracy. And I noted in the Lithgow Council papers of earlier this week, they actually had a point in there. They just had the delegations to the General Manager, not to the former Mayor, and their paper says the OLG, Office of Local Government, recommends that councils consider delegating blah, blah, blah. Let's go down to this one. The OLG suggests that councils should refrain from making any delegations to the outgoing mayor for the interim period. So that was interesting that I thought in their papers, and this is what Councillor Mann has brought to this meeting with the removal of point 7 and with the alternative motion, because it's pretty undemocratic if we had have left someone there, and I think this is a good outcome, and I'll be happy to support this motion with the removal of point 7. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Other discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, Councillor Mann, you've got a right of reply to anything that Councillor Black said, if you so desire.
I'm not sure the advice Councillor Black referred to. We did have a circulation here that actually allowed the possibility of the outgoing mayor to be delegated with the ceremonial duties, but my personal opinion was that that's probably not what we should do, that we should all stand down as a group. Hence, I've moved that way.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/153, proposed amendments to the Double Regional Local Environmental Plan 2022. Have someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
Just a question of clarification first, actually. I can just looking at the maps there on page 141 and 142 of Dubbo and Wellington. It was just a point of clarity regarding the Wellington one. Actually, is this actually an increase of the overall footprint in the Wellington town centre that allows for this type of, I suppose, residential development, if you want to call it that, for want of a better word, within that footprint? Obviously, there's a bit of a shortage of housing in Wellington as a result of the res, and I'm just wondering if this is just assisting to expand that footprint to alleviate some of those pressures.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Through Ms. CEO to Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. No, that wouldn't be the case. The current footprint of the CBD of Wellington has a additional permitted use that effectively enables residential developments of the nature we're proposing to be constructed. It's proposed to instead insert this allowance, this clause, across the entire LGA, so Dubbo would pick up that capacity, and we would remove the additional permitted use and just make it the same for both Dubbo and Wellington. So effectively, little change in Wellington. The capability exists and will continue, but there will be renewed capability for the Dubbo CBD.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. That clarifies that, Councillor Wright.
It does, Mr. Mayor. Just a further question then, and I see that shop top housing is used as a bit of an example there, and obviously there's a lot of vacant shops in Wellington. It refers to shop top, so bit of point of clarity. In Dubbo CBD, if there's a particular shop within that footprint that does have a little vacant warehouse or whatever they might have upstairs, it could potentially, met the criteria, be converted to shop top housing within the CBD. Is that correct?
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Through Ms. CEO to Mr. Wallace.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Effectively so, that's correct.
And further question again, some of those vacant shops in the main street of Wellington, especially seems to be a fair strip of them there. Is there an allowance for the street facing, the bottom floor, to be also converted to residential housing on that in that strip of shops?
Through CEO to Mr. Wallace.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a development control plan requirement that enables the activation of that floor component, and so that won't change. That is still something we are seeking. So the idea is to get that activation at the street frontage, so you don't have that dead space in the CBD.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to support that amendment to the LEP for that reason. Again, looking for creative ways to find some solutions to housing in Dubbo and Wellington, and there's obviously been a bit of interest for people to move closer to the CBD for different reasons, and we're seeing that with some high-rise stuff in Dubbo especially. So, if this can create some activation for people to live in and around the CBD, then I'm certainly happy to support that.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Other discussion? Councillor Wells. Sorry, and then Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just wanted to say that it's a massive report and a lot of information, so well done to the staff. I wanted to sort of go to near the end of the report where I was pleased to see that Dubbo Regional Council exercises the cultural heritage, and I can see that there are numerous site evaluations or cultural site evaluations on a particular property, which it's, I wanted to say that's really good to see that occurs. Hopefully in our procurement processes that there are opportunities for us to, spread our opportunities for, other areas that might provide cultural site surveying. I've seen that these are currently provided by Dubbo Aboriginal Lands Council, and I do understand there are a couple of other entities that could provide the same service. So just wanting to ensure that there's a fair and transparent procurement process to securing cultural site surveys on land. Thank you.
Certainly, thank you, Councillor Wells. I might just get the CEO just to clarify something there for you.
Yeah. In case I misheard as well, just to be clear, it was the consultant who did that analysis and they provided that as part of their submission for the planning proposal. So it wasn't council procuring it per se.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks for that clarity.
Anything else, Councillor Wells? Okay, Councillor Mann.
Oh, possibly a dumb question here, but I may have missed it. Currently in the Dubbo CBD, we've got some substantial, well, one in particular, substantial residential development already happening and also others mooted. Just refresh me as to why this is any different. That permit's obviously, that is obviously permitted as it is now.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. To Mr. Okay.
Yeah, I'll have first crack, Mr.
Mayor.
Take
over from Steve on this one.
Yeah. Just to give his vocal cords a rest. They're done currently under shop top housing, so they have to have an element underneath them, whereas the new planning proposal will mean you don't have to be shop top to develop the residential. But I'll throw to Steve Wallace, who will correct me if I have that wrong.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. To Mr. Wallace.
Mr. Mayor, I won't exercise that right. I think effectively this is just giving every opportunity to take away any red tape or problems that might come about trying to achieve shop top housing, which is more restrictive. So in the past, there's some hurdles to jump around about certain components of the development being located above retail, etc., located below. So the idea of this is just to free this up. The intention is supported to get the housing into the CBD, together with the activation at the ground floor. So it's just removing some of that bureaucracy.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Councillor Mann, anything further on that makes sense?
It does, yeah, and I'm very supportive of the concept as well. But there are some residential buildings in the back of the CBD there in Brisbane Street, etc. So obviously it must change over the years. But anyway, I'm very happy to see that, and more than happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you. Just a question about the Pinedale Road planning proposal there. So was it Pinedale or Whitewood Road? Pinedale, thanks. Usually these reports, when we have a planning proposal, say how much the proponent has paid in the planning proposal fee. I couldn't find that in here. Did they pay, or I just managed to jump on the coattails of council doing one? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Black. To Mr. CEO. To Mr. Wallace.
And I will call on Manager of Growth Planning to answer that.
Thank you. Mr. Howlett.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I know they didn't pay anything as part of the planning proposal. This was raised as a submission many years ago when council was reviewing the 2011 LEP. So we've been able to do it as a housekeeping amendment per se, and look at some of the old submissions that were raised in earlier reviews of the LEP as well.
Thank you, Mr. Howlett. Can I just ask, sorry, when, do you remember how long ago that submission was made, when that request came through? Putting you on the spot now. Or through Mr. CEO to Mr. Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So 2012 was the initial first foray with that submission. Basically, with the Daisy Hill planning proposal, which was just to the south of that subject site, this submission was held in abeyance for a long period of time because the Daisy Hill planning proposal took about 8 years to move through the process. It was a matter that was dealt with ultimately by the State Government Department of Planning at the time. With finalisation of that matter and sort of that moving forward, it's just timely for us to have another look at that submission.
Thank you, Mr Jennings. Mr Howlett, further questions, Councillor Baker?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion or debate, councillors? No? Okay, Councillor Wright, you have a right of reply.
No, thank you.
We have that before us, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/154, DA for commercial premises, Mars Property Group. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that? Sorry, my apologies. Thank you, Councillor Showery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have this agenda CCL 24/154 non-pecuniary significant interest because I live in South Lake and I'll leave this room.
Thank you, Councillor Showery. I'll just wait till you are out of earshot. Okay, Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, happy to support a large development in a very much a thriving and growing area of the city. I must say I was probably a little bit concerned initially just with respect to the impact of such a large shopping centre facility as to what that would have on surrounding shopping centres, even then the CBD for that matter, even shopping centres in West Dubbo. But there is a really detailed report on the impact of that. It's a rather pretty deep analysis. It'll certainly be a minimal impact initially, it seems, but as that area continues to grow, that impact certainly is watered down quite significantly. So, yeah, be excited to see this one go ahead. It's been talked about in the community for a number of years now, so it'll be exciting to see a sod turn on that one.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Other questions or debate, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Can we have someone ask Councillor Showery to come back in, please? Thank you, Councillor Showery. Next item, CCL 24/155, 2024 Water Supply and Sewage Customer Survey Results. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge, seconded by Councillor Wells. Councillor Etheridge, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question. Am I right that this report now goes out for community to review or comment on? Is that correct?
On public exhibition, yes. Sorry, Mr. Ryan. Yeah, join in. You haven't had a chance tonight. Join in. Through you, Mr. CEO, to Mr. Ryan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's right. This is seeking permission or for council to put this out for public consultation for a minimum of 28 days.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Councillor Wright, further questions or debate?
So this would allow our community to provide additional feedback and additional information or contribute additionally to this particular survey?
Through you, Mr. CEO, to Mr. Ryan.
Yes, that is the intention of the public consultation.
I thought you were going to leave it at one word. I thought you were going to go through all that and just yes. Further questions or debate, Councillor Wright?
I just see a lot of anecdotal stories of how poor the Dubbo water is, and then this survey itself doesn't seem to indicate that as much as what some of the comments we see, especially around social media. So, if people are having issues and they disagree with the survey results, then please jump on board and provide your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Further discussion or debate, councillors? No, there being none. Councillor Etheridge, you do have a right of reply if you wish to use it. No, thank you. Okay, councillors, all those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/156, question on notice from Councillor Chowdhury. Would you like to move your question on notice?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have moved.
Do you want to read it out, just for people that are viewing here in the audience and at home?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question of notice was pedestrian access to the Orana Mall on Mitchell Highway and Wheelers Lane.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. And I'm just going to check. Yeah, thank you. So I was just making sure that there's no real discussion or debate. The whole idea is to bring forward your question and you've got an answer. So for notation, you've moved that. Have someone second that, please. Councillor Etheridge, thank you. So Councillor Chowdhury, you can speak to it, but that's kind of the idea of it because it's just for notation. So would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, definitely I'm going to speak. And thank you, council staff, to create this report, but I would like to see few more pages anyway. One short page is all good. Actually, there was many people came to me and talked to, and I believe that a fellow councillor also received maybe comment from the community. This is very busy road, and we don't have a real access to go to Orana Mall. And I have seen many times after school, school kids plus women, they they are struggling to cross that road. And so I would like to see a council will be actively looking for some sort of funding to or whatever arrangement they can do to foot-over bridge or lighting option to be seen very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Any other comments? Councillor Black.
Just a question. The roundabout at Cobra Street and Wheelers Lane, at some stage that's going to be having to be turned into a set of lights. I was told a couple of years ago that was 7 years off. Is there any indication on when that might be at its maximum and we can lobby for a set of lights there, maybe to be brought forward?
Thank you, Councillor Black. To you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To be quite honest, I'm not sure what the rest of the life of that roundabout is in terms of capacity, but I can certainly take that on notice and follow up with Transport for New South Wales.
Thank you, Councillor Black. That's right. Yep. Okay, any further questions? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Probably more a comment that I'm really pleased to see that the question on notice has gone in, and I know that when I drive around that area, there are a lot of young kids or mums and babies, and that they're on bikes or they're walking, trying to cross the road, those highways to get to the Orana Mall, and it's quite dangerous. And I think the sooner, listening to Councillor Black talk about the lights are, hopefully only a couple of years away, it'd be great to see that. But even if there's opportunities for something to mitigate the potential risks of, I can see a kid getting cleaned up there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Just a question. Would I be right in saying that a crossing, even of lights, obviously there's one up towards Sheraton Road there on the Mitchell Highway there, but would, whilst we could lobby, the cost of that would be a cost to New South Wales government? It's a state highway, I guess. Would that be correct? It wouldn't be our cost, something for us to lobby for someone else to pay for?
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Through you, Mr. CEO, to Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last paragraph of that talks about a condition of consent that we have on our subdivision for Keswick Estate. That's the onus is then on us for making sure that we fund and install that. The discussions that we have been having with Transport for New South Wales is more around the desire lines, not precluding that we're looking at the traffic lights. But that also comes into the conversation, is at what point is that needed? The thing that we don't want to do, and it relates a little bit back to what Councillor Black was talking about in terms of an intersection, if that turns into a intersection that's controlled by traffic lights, you would naturally have the pedestrian lights attached to that. So we don't really want to go ahead and then in 5 years' time we've got redundant lights sitting there. So that is part of that discussion to understand that. But I just don't know the exact timeframe that they're talking about in terms of that intersection failing and then requiring traffic lights. So that's where I need to take that on notice. But it's making sure that we're not duplicating something that's only going to be, 100 metres down the road and we've got two sets of pedestrian lights.
Thank you, Mr Ryan. That makes sense, Councillor Wright?
Thank you, yes.
Sure. Further questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Wells, you've already entered the debate, so you can ask a question.
I can ask a question, great. So just to be clear, we're not sure, so we're going to be looking for when the proposed state will be doing lights. I'm just curious about when that might happen, because I'm hoping that it's not triggered by a terrible incident.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Through CEO to Mr Ryan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, it's generally the intersection treatments are triggered in terms of change due to the capacity of that intersection failing. But accidents, near misses, fatalities do also come into that when you're doing an assessment for an intersection upgrade. It would be unfortunate, but it certainly is. Traffic's the main element that gets looked at in terms of when you do need to change an intersection treatment.
Thank you, Mr Ryan. That's fine, Councillor Wells. Yeah. Further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Shadow, you have a right of reply to everything that was said if you wish to exercise that.
No, all good, thank you.
Thank you. I have the notation there before us. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/157, comments and matters of urgency. I'll start over on the left here. Councillor Black.
Thank you. Just one very quick thing. Out of $36 million that Hornsby Council had taken back off them from the state government, they got that for council amalgamations when they weren't actually amalgamated. That really should be coming to us. I've written to the local government minister, Ron Honig, along those lines. As an amalgamated council that has a large infrastructure backlog and asset renewals, we need that $36 million, and most of it would be spent in Wello immediately. So hopefully he reads my letter and agrees and just sends us the $36 million and we can get on with our asset renewals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Burns.
No, I've got nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a couple of things. One, last week, I think it was, Squadron Energy had the opening of their Wellington office, which was really good to see. We'd certainly discussed that issue with Squadron over a number of, over years really, more than a year, saying, look, most of the projects are based in Wellington or around the Wellington area. What did you open an office for in Dubbo initially? And that seems to have been taken on board, and they've done a fantastic job converting and upgrading the office there. And I've noticed just driving past in recent days, there are always four-wheel drive vehicles out there with different markings on them. So I think the office is being well used. So congratulations to Squadron Energy for actually investing in the local community. The other thing, perhaps is a comment. I know I think I've said to the CEO a couple of times when I first came on council, I wasn't quite sure what the role of a councillor was. I didn't seem to be doing very much, it seems. But I think tonight has illustrated very well what the role of councillors is. The two items, particularly obviously the livestock market, that's a very important issue and involved a whole lot of research and analysis and digestion of figures, and I think that's fantastic. And then all that comes together, and the council makes a decision, and that's I thought that was a very good process. And perhaps the other one too, the squirrel glider. What role does council have in helping preserve the environment compared to encourage development? And I think that raised a couple of very important issues, and I was pleased to be part of that. So yeah, I think being a councillor does have its responsibilities and its challenges and perhaps even its rewards.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Mann.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Etheridge. No, thank you. I'll go around. Councillor Goff.
Just want to shout out to the on the long weekend, the June long weekend, the state rugby championships were held here in Dubbo, and another successful event. It was very busy for me, but to the Roos, they always do a fantastic job hosting these teams that come along, and how they clean up the fields afterwards is immaculate. So well done to them and all the organisers involved with that. And then the two Dubbo Eisteddfod and Wellington Eisteddfod has just finished up. So congratulations to all of them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Not necessarily reporting on anything over the past month, but wanted to sort of let everybody know that from the 7th of July to the 14th of July, it is NAIDOC Week, and this year's theme is Keep the Fire Burning, Black, Loud and Proud. We know that the Dubbo Regional Council is investing heavily this year again, and we'll be seeing a march on the Monday, and obviously the flag raising on site here, and then I believe across the road, I think there'll be an event across the road. It's an opportunity for the whole community to be a part of a 65,000 year culture that, you know, we should be proud of across this whole nation. And Dubbo, I think, shines brightly when we get to showcase culture through NAIDOC Week, and I'm hoping that this year will do the same for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just I went last week, biggest morning tea hosted by Connecting Services, and I really appreciate they hosted, and there was many people attended. I really surprised that many people support their event. So that one of them, and I went actually this week, regional annual summit hosted by Multicultural New South Wales, and it's really great opportunity for me to get network with the other. There was a few councillor, mayor, and different people, different stakeholder from all over the New South Wales, and it was a really good. And I met with actually that multicultural officer from Orange Council. And they are really doing actively doing a lot of work for the community. But I really appreciate our council also doing a lot of background work. Also, I'd like to shout out my fellow councillor. I hope tomorrow some of them are going to blood donation. I think that's a fantastic showcase by these councillors. We are not taking only donation, we are supporting to the community too, whoever in the crisis or life threat or any crisis, like this councillor showing that support. I really appreciate my fellow councillors going for blood donation tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I think I've said enough tonight, so I'm good. Thank you.
Ooh, you feeling okay? Just a few things. Obviously, Sally Yard's debate. I actually think, councillors, that was the biggest decision, apart from our budget each year. That was the biggest decision that we've made on an individual topic in this term of council. So congratulations on all the thought and the time and the effort that went into that. And we've obviously got an outcome that I think will be fantastic and improve that facility. So I think that's quite positive going forward. So well done on all the contributions that all councillors made to that ongoing debate. And it was great to see the theatre filled up. I'd love to see 240 people here every month for all the decisions we make, because all decisions are important decisions and they impact people. But that was certainly a great process to go through, and lots of different ideas were exchanged out in the community. A couple of other things, I think the Filipino flag raising that occurred during the month, again, it just goes to show how many different groups of people we've got here. We see it at new resident nights, we see it at citizenship ceremonies. We've got 65,000 years of history here, but we've also got 5 minutes of history here. So it's that great melting pot of all that history, all that background, and also new people that want to be here, because why wouldn't you want to be here? It's a fantastic place to be. The Developers Forum we held probably last week, I think it was now. Again, the excitement in the room when we had maybe 50 people in the room that talked about the development opportunities. Our staff gave a presentation. We had presentations from the state government, from Real Estate Institute. So I think just seeing all that activity and the potential opportunity there, developers in the room, there was no doubt about it, were excited to see where Dubbo was headed. And again, we need their help to start to address some of these housing shortages we've got. And I know Councillor Ivey mentioned it briefly, but I did want to mention two things from Squadron. The Wellington office opening, fantastic, 10 staff now employed. People say, what does the RES do for us already? Well, already there are community benefit funds that we're seeing come through, but there's an office with 10 people in it that wouldn't have been 10 people employed in the Wellington community in the past. And then, of course, $3.6 million for our advanced wastewater treatment facility at the sewage treatment plant. I think that, again, is another significant step in the right direction. And Squadron could have bought the water they need for their construction, and they might have spent, depending on the price of water at the time, anywhere from maybe $500,000 to $1 million, but they want to make sure they leave long-lasting I suppose, legacy in this community, and doing that means that we will have a long-lasting legacy. So I think that was a fantastic opportunity. And the last one, I know Councillor Goff was out there with me, the animal shelter, the turning of the sods of soil on the animal shelter. Councillor Goff and I made a huge contribution with the soil that we turned there. David Payne Construction was very thankful for the work we put in to make their job easier. But again, that's a facility. Dubbo's growing. And if I can say one thing to residents, make sure you keep your microchip details on your dogs and cats up to date, because that's a much bigger problem than I realised, that people might move, they might move around, they might change phone numbers. We do have our rangers pick up dogs and cats sometimes, but they go to contact the details that their microchipped details show and they're incorrect, or it's someone that hasn't moved or hasn't updated their details. So microchip in the first place, but also keep those details up to date. So thank you, councillors. Good meeting. And now I would ask someone move us into the confidential section. I'll just go through the formal items. Under Section 10A of the Local Government Act, the next item, CCL 24/158, has been identified as likely to be discussed in a closed session of council. Can I have someone move us into confidential session, please? Thank you, Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Before we deal with that, we've had no applications from members of the public to make their representations regarding whether the meeting should be closed. We've got people in the audience now, so I can finally say, do any members of the public in the gallery have any comments to make regarding the proposal to hear the items in the closed session of council? Okay. Any questions or debate on the motion that Councillor Wells moved to move into confidential? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. The stream will now be turned off. Any members of the public will be asked to leave the theatre. The theatre will be reopened and the live stream restarted after deliberations on this matter, with the resolution to be made public. Council return to open session at 8:33 p.m. Welcome back. Sorry, we've got web streaming started again. Thank you. I'll now read the motion from closed session of council. The recommendation is that 1, that council consider the detail contained within this report when considering agenda item CCL 24/149, determination of the operational model for Dubbo regional livestock markets, and number 2, that the information contained within this report remain confidential to council. There are no further items for consideration of the ordinary council meeting, and I declare the meeting closed, the time being 8:33 still. Web stream has now been completed. Thank you for your attendance. Please stop web.